Chapter 474. Although the surname Yi wasn't the most common surname, it wasn't the least either. The Star Continent was so vast and there were so many martial artists. The number of martial artists Yi Xing had was definitely a huge number. The Ye family that Yi Xing belonged to was just an ordinary Ye family. Even so, the Ye family had a few babies that died of unnatural causes. If the entire Star Continent was taken into account, the number of babies with the surname Yi who died of unnatural causes would definitely be a shocking number. Killing so many babies just because there might be a threat in the future. Such a heart was indeed vicious. Yi Xing collected his thoughts and looked at He Biao. Even the Grand Tutor of the Great Yuan Dynasty, Si Kongyan, deduced that I was the demon star of troubled times. Why didn't the Great Yuan Dynasty find me, but brother He Biao found me? He Biao said, although the Great Yuan Dynasty is the ruler of the Star Continent, the only region that they have complete control over is the Middle Sky Continent. The other 4 continents are barren and are not valued by the Great Yuan Dynasty. Furthermore, they are far away from the Middle Sky Continent, so the Great Yuan Dynasty's control is naturally weaker. However, my Dark Star sect has taken root in the East Divine Continent. It has been 2,000 years and many forces in the East Divine Continent have secretly belonged to my Dark Star sect. If you, the demon star of troubled times, were born elsewhere, the Great Yuan Dynasty would naturally have an advantage. However, since you were born in the East Divine Continent, if my Dark Star sect doesn't find you first, what qualifications do we have to compete with the Great Yuan Dynasty? Yi Xing nodded. The Dark Star sect was also a 3-star force. If the Dark Star sect's territory was in the East Divine Continent, they would indeed have an advantage over the Great Yuan Dynasty. However, there was still something that Yi Xing didn't understand. Yi Xing asked, why does brother He Biao think that I am the demon star of troubled times? He Biao smiled faintly and said, to be able to confirm your identity, of course, there are many ways to confirm your identity. Firstly, your surname is Yi. Secondly, the time of your rise coincides with the arrival of the demon star. Thirdly, the speed of your rise is unusual. Before the age of 16, you were mediocre and had a useless body. But after the age of 16, you skyrocketed and your cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Most importantly, you are not from the Star Continent. Yi Xing's eyes lit up as he suddenly sat up straight. This was the first time he had heard someone say that he wasn't from the Star Continent. How could he not be shocked? When He Biao saw this, he raised his hand and pressed down, causing Yi Xing to relax. He continued, you don't have to be too surprised. The Grand Tutor of the Deyuan Dynasty, Si Kongyan, has already deduced that the demon star came from outer space. Furthermore, you are not the only one who came from outer space. In Yi Xing's heart, he was incomparably shocked by the art of deduction. To be able to deduce such intangible things, it was really strange. As for He Biao saying that Yi Xing wasn't the only one who came from outer space, this made Yi Xing even more surprised. Yi Xing asked, who else came from outer space? He Biao revealed a respectful expression and said, the founder of my Dark Star sect is not from the Star Continent. He came from another Star Continent. Yi Xing asked curiously, other than the Star Continent, are there other Star Continents? After Yi Xing finished asking, he frowned slightly and was startled. This was a question that shouldn't have been asked. If he wasn't from the Star Continent, how could he not know that there were other Star Continents? Although Yi Xing wasn't from the Star Continent, that was only relative to his soul. His body was truly from the Star Continent. Moreover, his soul came from Earth, which was a completely different world from the Star Continent. Naturally, he would be surprised that there was a martial world similar to the Star Continent. He Biao looked at Yi Xing in surprise. He didn't delve into the flaw in Yi Xing's words and said, there are other Star Continents. Of course there are other continents. The universe is so vast. How can there be only one continent? A continent is just a speck of dust compared to the universe. Yi Xing came from Earth, so he naturally understood the vastness of the universe. Earth was also just a speck of dust in the universe. Of course, he understood that the Star Continent was also very small in the universe. However, the world that the Star Continent was in was obviously different from Earth. Yi Xing didn't know whether the star continent and Earth were in the same universe. Yi Xing didn't know much about the world that the star continent was in, but he was very curious and had the desire to explore. Yi Xing said, "Little brother only knows a little about the star continent. As for the universe, I know even less. I sincerely hope that brother He Biao can enlighten me." He Biao nodded and said, "The universe is vast and boundless. As for how big it is, I don't know either. However, the founder of my Dark Star sect came from outer space. Regarding this knowledge, the Dark Star sect is more knowledgeable than the other forces in the star continent. According to the information left behind by the founder of my sect, the world we live in is called the Flowing Light World. It is made up of many star continents, and the star continent is only one of them. In ordinary continents, if one can cultivate to the Star Sea realm and become a king, that is the peak of the martial way. As for mid-level continents, one can break through the limit of the Star Sea realm and reach the Star Nirvana realm, becoming an existence close to God. As for high-level continents, one can break through the limit of the Star Nirvana realm and reach the Star God realm, becoming a true God. Yi Xing was dumbfounded. The shock in his heart was no less than when he had heard Zishanho explain the star continent and the 5 great realms of the martial way to him when he thought that martial sage was the peak of the martial way. At that time, Zishanho Hua Tianfeng had broken Yi Xing's common sense of the martial way, greatly broadening Yi Xing's horizons. This time, it was the same. As it turned out, the Star Sea Realm King was not the peak of the martial way. Above the Star Sea Realm, there was the Star Nirvana realm and the Star God realm. Moreover, the vastness of the world also shocked Yi Xing. The star continent was already big enough, but he had only walked through a very small area of the star continent. However, in the Flowing Light World, there were many continents similar to the star continent. Moreover, the star continent was only one of the ordinary continents. Above it, there were still mid-level continents and high-level continents. Yi Xing muttered, "This world is too big. Moreover, on the martial way, where is the peak?" "The peak of the martial way?" He Biao laughed bitterly and sighed. "The martial way is endless. Where is there a peak? The peak of the martial way is relative. For example, in the true Shen domain, esteemed person is the peak. In the East Divine Continent, revered lords are the peak. In the Star Continent, kings are the peak. And in mid-level continents, Star Nirvana realm quasi-gods are the peak. In high-level continents, Star God realm true gods are the peak. However, even true gods are not considered the peak of the martial way. Legend has it that there is another realm above true gods. I don't know the name of that realm, but I know that the martial artists of that realm are called Supremes." Yi Xing's voice was astonished. "Supremes, is that the true peak of the martial way?" Requesting monthly votes. Today's monthly votes have broken through 100. I will send it to you tomorrow at 10 p.m. Chapter 475. He Biao laughed involuntarily and said, "Who knows? Without reaching that realm, there's naturally no way to understand. Not to mention Supremes, even quasi-gods and true gods are only mentioned in the notes left behind by the founder of our sect. The martial Dao limit of the star continent is Star Sea Realm King. The martial artists of the star continent all think that Star Sea Realm King is the peak of martial Dao. They have no idea that after the king, there are quasi-gods, true gods, and even supremes." Yi Xing's eyes flickered. His goal was to reach the peak of martial Dao. All along, his goal had been to become a king and stand at the peak of martial Dao in the star continent. However, now that he knew that after the king, there were quasi-gods, true gods, and even the legendary supremes, he couldn't help but wonder if his goal was the true peak of martial Dao or just the peak of martial Dao in the star continent. For now, I should aim to reach the peak of martial Dao in the star continent. The true peak of martial Dao is too illusory. If I want to compete with the martial artists of other star continents, I have to at least reach the other star continents and stand on the same stage as them. If I can't do it, then it's meaningless to compete with the martial artists of other star continents." Yi Xing thought to himself as he confirmed his goal. He had pride in his heart and wanted to live a carefree life. He wasn't willing to be under anyone. Whichever stage he stood on, he had to pursue the martial Dao limit of that stage. Now, Yixing was still in the Star Continent. The Star Continent was his stage. Therefore, his goal was to reach the peak of martial Dao in the Star Continent. If there was a day when he could leave the Star Continent, then things would be different. Yixing said, "I've read about the records of the Star Continent. The martial Dao limit of the Star Continent is 4-star king. In the past 10,000 years, there have only been 4 4-star kings, and they were all the supreme kings of the Great Yuan dynasty." He Biao nodded and said, "The Great Yuan dynasty occupies the most abundant resources in the Star Continent. When the dynasty was established, it gathered the fortune of the entire Star Continent. Every time someone reached the martial Dao limit of the Star Continent, they naturally came from the Great Yuan dynasty. If ordinary continents were divided into 3 grades, the Star Continent would belong to the lower grade. Most of the time, martial artists would reach the initial stage of King Realm, and that would be their limit. It would take at least 1 to 2,000 years of accumulation of luck to produce a 4-star king, and a 4-star king was the true limit. No matter how long the accumulation of luck was, it was impossible for anyone to break through to the 5-star king realm. Generally speaking, the limit of a mid-grade ordinary continent's martial artist was a mid-grade king, while the limit of a high-grade ordinary continent's martial artist was a high-level king. If one wanted to break through the limits of the Star Sea realm, step into the Star Nirvana realm, and become a quasi-god, only a medium-grade continent would have this kind of luck. The flowing light boundary had many ordinary continents, but not many medium-grade continents. As for the high-class continents, I can't even count them with one hand. There are only 3 of them, and my sect's founder came from one of them." Yixing sucked in a breath of cold air. A high-class continent's martial artist's limit was the true god of the Star God realm. The founder of the Dark Star sect actually came from such a terrifying place. Yixing couldn't help but wonder if the founder of the Dark Star sect had seen a true god. At the very least, he should have seen a quasi-god. To be able to have the word god, how strong must a martial artist be? Quasi-god, true god, these were too far away from him. Yixing collected his thoughts. What he should be paying attention to now was the Star Continent's martial artist world. Yixing said, "In the Star Continent, only by becoming a king can one be considered to have reached the peak of martial arts. One can live for 1,000 years, free and unfettered. I wonder how many kings there are in the Star Continent?" Yixing didn't know that He Biao was a king. This wasn't a question, but a sigh from the bottom of his heart. However, when He Biao heard this, he laughed. "Free and unfettered? Who said that one can be free and unfettered after becoming a king? If it was my Dark Star sect's king, then he could barely be called free and unfettered. As for the Great Yuan dynasty's king, he lives like a dog. How can he be free and unfettered?" Yixing was shocked. His voice was filled with disbelief. The Great Yuan dynasty's king lives like a dog? In Yixing's heart, the Star Sea realm's king was the peak of martial arts in the Star Continent. To become a king, how powerful would one be? Moreover, they would have a lifespan of 1,000 years. How could they not be free and unfettered? He Biao said, "This is the abominable part of the Great Yuan dynasty. Since Meng Wu established the Great Yuan dynasty 10,000 years ago and unified the Star Continent, the Meng clan was the one and only overlord of the Star Continent. The Meng clan gathered the fortune of the entire Star Continent for their own use and occupied the most abundant resources of the Star Continent. The most hateful thing is that they cut off the path of king for all martial artists in the world. Even if one has the qualifications to become a king, if one doesn't rely on the Great Yuan dynasty and serve the Meng clan, they still don't have the qualifications to become a king. Firstly, they lack resources. Secondly, they don't have any inheritance. Even if you have the opportunity to obtain a profound grade upper grade cultivation technique inheritance and enough resources to become a king, it is still harder than ascending to heaven." Yixing asked, "Why?" He Biao said, "If you don't rely on the Great Yuan dynasty and have the qualifications to become a king, you will be seen as a threat. Before you can become a king, you will be killed by the Great Yuan dynasty's experts. Even if your fortune is heaven-defying and you are lucky enough to escape this calamity and successfully become a king, your days won't be peaceful. The Great Yuan dynasty has the king of the entire star continent. One person or even 3 to 5 people can't contend against them. Only by relying on the Great Yuan dynasty and becoming a dog of the Meng family can you live a stable life. You are the king standing at the pinnacle of martial arts in the star continent, but you don't have freedom and live like a dog. Yi Xing couldn't help but feel depressed. Even in his current state, he still wanted to live freely. The reason why he wanted to reach the peak of martial arts was because he didn't want to live under other people's eyes. If he still lived like a dog after becoming a king, what was the point? Yi Xing let out a long breath and said, "The Great Yuan dynasty treated the kings like this. Which king would be willing to accept it? Is there no one who resisted?" He Biao said, "Of course there were people who resisted, but no one has ever succeeded. The Great Yuan dynasty unified the star continent and has an incomparably deep foundation. They have a huge amount of cultivation resources and martial arts manuals. They know some special methods that can control the life and death of a king. Once you rely on the Great Yuan dynasty, even if you become a king, you will never be free again." As He Biao spoke, his eyes glowed with hope. Until the founder of our cult came from the starry sky, he broke the shackles of the Great Yuan dynasty and fought for a glimmer of hope for the martial artists of the Star Land. Otherwise, even if I have the qualifications to become a king, if I don't choose to become the Great Yuan dynasty's dog, I won't be able to become a king. Thank you, book friend. Wrong? Brother tipped 100,000 to become the 8th leader of the Arrow God. Warm congratulations, thank you. Brothers, do you still have monthly votes? Chapter 476. Yi Xing immediately held his breath. King? He Biao was actually a king? Yi Xing stared at He Biao with wide eyes, unable to believe that the person who called him brother was actually a king. To this day, Yi Xing had not even seen a real venerable one. He had only met a half-step venerable one. In the true Shen domain, venerables were already legends that could not be seen. King was even more of a legend, an existence that stood at the pinnacle of the martial arts world on the star continent. Yi Xing was dumbfounded when he suddenly learned that He Biao was a king. He Biao looked at Yi Xing's reaction and smiled, saying, "Why? Do I not look like a king?" Yi Xing's willpower was, after all, incomparable to ordinary people. He quickly reacted and smiled embarrassedly, saying, "It's not that brother He Biao doesn't look like one. It's just that I can't believe that I actually met a king, and a king who calls me brother. I'm afraid no one would believe me if I told them." He Biao saw that Yi Xing was still treating him as usual after learning that he was a king, so he continued to smile, saying, "You're from the star continent. You are indeed worthy of being a guest from outer space. I like your free and easy temperament very much. My age is not very old compared to the lifespan of a king. I am only 200 years old. When you become a king in the future, we will be of the same generation. Now, you and I can call each other brothers." He Biao did not ask about Yi Xing's destiny. He only knew that Yi Xing was a demonic star in troubled times, someone who could shake the foundation of the Great Yuan dynasty for 10,000 years. He would definitely become a king in the future. Yi Xing also smiled. He liked being friends with He Biao. It was refreshing. Since He Biao was a king, Yi Xing immediately thought of another king, King Lanqin, who had taken away Wei Qingxian. Yi Xing asked, "Brother He Biao, do you know a king called King Lanqin?" He Biao smiled and nodded, saying, "King Lanqin is one of the 4 guardian kings of our sect. Of course I know him." Yi Xing's eyes immediately lit up. 2 years ago, Queen Lanqin took away a girl from the Spirit Moon sect in the Qingyun region. Does brother He Biao know about this? Ever since Yi Xing had fallen into a coma, Wei Qingxian had gone to the Spirit Moon sect, and they had never seen each other again. In the future, Yi Xing only learned from Spiritual Moon sect's Taoist master Yanyu that Wei Qingxian had been taken away by a king named King Lanqin. After that, there was no further news. Now that he'd finally found someone who knew Princess Lanqin, Yi Xing naturally wanted to inquire about Wei Qingxuan's whereabouts. He Biao smiled and said, "Of course I know. That girl is called Wei Qingxian, right?" In fact, the reason why I came to the Green Cloud region before the Great Yuan dynasty and found you as the Demon Star of Troubled Times was because of this girl. Yi Xing was stunned. Qingxian talked about me? He Biao nodded. Queen Lanqin took her back to the Dark Star sect. Later on, we learned that the Demon Star of Troubled Times had descended. At first, our sect thought that she was the Demon Star of Troubled Times. Her talent could only be greater than yours. However, according to Si Kongyan's calculations, the Demon Star of Troubled Times was born with the surname Yi. Our sect's divination masters also calculated that the Demon Star of Troubled Times was surnamed Yi, so she was eliminated. This was because she knew that the Great Yuan dynasty's goal in finding the Demon Star of Troubled Times was to eliminate it as soon as possible. She felt that the Demon Star of Troubled Times was you, so she told Queen Lanqin about your path of growth. Queen Lanqin told me about you, so I came to the Green Cloud region. I paid attention to your news while comprehending the dark influence. Fortunately, I confirmed that you were the Demon Star of Troubled Times in the end. Moreover, I comprehended the dark influence to perfection, so both goals were achieved. What I need to do now is to prevent the Great Yuan dynasty from finding you and falling into their hands. After learning of Wei Qingxuan's whereabouts, Yi Xing was overjoyed. He asked, "How is Qingxian now?" He Biao looked at Yi Xing meaningfully. "You care a lot about her." "Don't worry, she's doing very well. She'll also participate in the East Divine Continent's Gathering of Geniuses. You'll see her before long." It had been 2 years since he had seen Wei Qingxian. After more than a month, they could finally meet again at the East Divine Continent's Gathering of Geniuses. Yi Xing was very happy. However, even though he was happy, his mind was still sharp. He asked, "I heard that the Star Continent's genius selection was ordered by the Great Yuan dynasty. Qingxian is a disciple of the Dark Star sect. Can she participate?" He Biao smiled. "I've said it before. My Dark Star sect has been rooted in the East Divine Continent for 2,000 years. Many factions are dissatisfied with the Great Yuan dynasty and have secretly sided with them. Of course, the disciples of my sect cannot participate in the selection held by the Great Yuan dynasty. However, it's easy for my sect to plant a few disciples in the factions of the East Divine Continent. Wei Qingxian will participate in the selection as a representative of the Bloodridge Empire's younger generation." He Biao looked at Yi Xing and smiled. He paused for a moment before continuing, "Do you know why the Great Yuan dynasty held the selection for 3 years? Yi Xing shook his head. "Isn't it just to select geniuses? Could there be other goals?" He Biao looked straight at Yi Xing and smiled without saying anything. Yi Xing understood the meaning in He Biao's eyes. He was surprised. "Is it to find the Demon Star of Troubled Times? Which means to find me?" He Biao nodded. "That's right. The Star Continent is too vast and there are too many cultivators. Although the Great Yuan dynasty killed many of the Yi clan's babies, Si Kongyan calculated that the Demon Star is not dead. He didn't descend directly but came from outer space. Therefore, Si Kongyan suggested to the great Meng King, Meng Tai, to hold a selection for the entire Star Continent to find the Demon Star of Troubled Times. Si Kongyan calculated that within 10 years, the Demon Star would threaten the Great Yuan dynasty's foundation. It could be seen that the Demon Star's growth was extremely fast. This selection would take 3 years. Moreover, it would cover the entire Star Continent. This was to give the Demon Star enough time to grow and stand out in the selection, walking right into the trap. Since the Demon Star could threaten the Great Yuan dynasty's foundation within 10 years, he would definitely become an expert in 3 years. With such a fast growth speed, he must be cultivating in the Golden Period. Therefore, Si Kongyan calculated that the Demon Star of Troubled Times came from outer space. However, he was still young and his surname was Yi. After appearing in the Star Continent, he would grow rapidly on the path of martial arts. Moreover, it was said that Si Kongyan calculated that the Demon Star of Troubled Times was related to archery and was an expert in archery. As long as the Demon Star of Troubled Times participated in the selection, his identity would definitely be exposed. A layer of cold sweat appeared on Yi Xing's back. The other party calculated so clearly. If he really shocked the world in the selection, the Great Yuan dynasty would definitely recognize him as the demon star of troubled times. The third selection would be held in the Middle Sky continent. If the demon star of troubled times' identity was exposed, wouldn't he be dead for sure? Furthermore, they will fight with all their might in the Starry Sky arena to compete for the rankings, so that they can seize more of the Star Continent's fate. This way, they will know who the Demon Star of Chaos is. Yi Xing nodded and said, "That's right. What about after that? Aren't I finished? The Great Yuan dynasty can't do anything in the Grand Arena of Starry Sky. What about after I leave the Grand Arena of Starry Sky?" He Biao's eyes were filled with confidence as he said, "After leaving the Grand Astral Arena, if the Great Yuan dynasty wants to touch you, they will have to see if I agree. My dark force has already been comprehended to perfection. Even if the Great Yuan dynasty's King Meng Tai makes a move, I have no fear. With me here, the Great Yuan dynasty won't be able to touch a single hair on your head." These years, ever since the founder of the Dark Star sect passed away, the Great Yuan dynasty has been suppressing the Dark Star sect. Now that I have reached the level of the founder, it's time to show my fangs to the Great Yuan dynasty. The Great Yuan dynasty's King Meng Tai was a 4-star king. On the Star Continent, only one 4-star king would appear after 1 to 2,000 years of accumulation of fate. Therefore, every 4-star king was unique. Their cultivation base was unparalleled in the world. As a mid-step king, their strength would most likely be unparalleled in the world. He Biao said that he had no fear of Meng Tai making a move. What level of strength was that? Yi Xing looked at He Biao in shock and said, "The Great Yuan dynasty's King Meng Tai is a 4-star sage. You have no fear of fighting him? Could it be that you are the leader of the Dark Star sect?" He Biao shook his head and said, "My nature is undisciplined and I don't like to manage things. I don't like the position of leader. Although I am not the leader of the Dark Star sect, I am the strongest in the Dark Star sect. My sect's founder was a 3-star King Realm expert, but he was able to defeat the previous 4-star King Realm expert of the Great Yuan dynasty, Meng Yi, with the help of his perfect darkness aura. I think that I can also defeat Meng Tai now." Yi Xing looked at He Biao. The person in front of him was a peerless expert who could fight with the strongest in the Star Continent. Yet he called Yi Xing his brother. Yi Xing thought about it and felt somewhat flattered. He Biao continued, "The Great Yuan dynasty is the cancer of the Star Continent. The last wish of the founder of the Dark Star sect was to overthrow the Great Yuan dynasty and let the martial artists of the Star Continent compete fairly and pursue the path of the king. Only then would the Star Continent's martial arts world flourish and have a good effect on the development of the Star Continent's martial arts world. Brother Yi Xing, you are the demon star of the Great Yuan dynasty. However, you are also the savior of countless martial artists of the Star Continent. The Great Yuan dynasty has a deep foundation. Even if I can fight with Meng Tai, I can only make the Dark Star sect protect itself and not overthrow the Great Yuan dynasty. However, we have the hope. Therefore, the Dark Star sect will do its best to help you in the dark and protect your safety. Moreover, it will allow you to grow as fast as possible. Only then will the Great Yuan dynasty fall one day and the martial artists of the Star Continent have the hope of freedom." Yi Xing nodded. The Great Yuan dynasty blocked the path of the other martial artists to become the king. If other martial artists wanted to become the king, they would have to rely on the Great Yuan dynasty. Because of this reason, Yi Xing would stand on the same side as the Dark Star sect and overthrow the Great Yuan dynasty. Yi Xing said, "Although I am currently unable to contend against the Great Yuan dynasty, I will work hard. There will be a day when I reach the point where the Great Yuan dynasty will tremble. I will eradicate this malignant tumor of the Star Continent and return peace to the Star Continent." He Biao smiled with satisfaction and said, "I'm looking forward to your future." That's right. The top 10 contestants in the Starry Sky Grand Arena will have a chance to enter the extraterritorial Starland and train with the younger generation geniuses of the other Starry Sky continents. Those extraterritorial star continents are all ancient ruins and there are many treasures inside. If you can enter, it will be a great opportunity. This is the reason why I told you to fight for a higher ranking in the Starry Sky arena without revealing your identity. The higher your ranking, the higher the grade of the extraterritorial star continent and the greater the rewards. Yi Xing's gaze was resolute as he said, "Since I am participating in the third selection, I will do my best. First place on the heavenly fate ranking and becoming a son of the stars is my goal." He Biao laughed and said, "As expected of the demon star of the Great Yuan dynasty, such ambition. If that's the case, the Great Yuan dynasty's martial artists will be angered half to death, ha." He Biao laughed and stood up, continuing, "All right, I will return to the Dark Star sect first. I will wait for your good news. Today's update. Please support me with monthly votes." Chapter 478. He Biao flew into the air and suddenly stopped. He turned around and said to Yi Xing, "Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. In order to avoid being investigated by the Great Yuan dynasty, that girl used a different identity to participate in the genius selection. In the genius selection, she's called Zi Xian, not Wei Qingxian. Be careful, don't expose her identity." He Biao's figure flew into the distance and soon disappeared. Yi Xing nodded in the direction where He Biao disappeared. The Spirit Moon sect had been destroyed by the Deyuan dynasty, so the name Wei Qingxian must have been known by the Deyuan dynasty. "It's been 2 years, Qingxian. 2 years ago, we were not martial saints yet. Now, I'm already a 5 stars enlightened being. Brother He Biao said that your talent is higher than mine. I wonder what level your cultivation has reached." Yi Xing murmured. Wei Qingxuan's stunning face appeared in his mind again. There were less than 2 months left until the end of the year. He would be able to see Wei Qingxian again at the selection. A sweet smile appeared on Yi Xing's face. After coming to the Star Mainland for almost 3 years, the only person who had left a deep impression in Yi Xing's heart was Wei Qingxian. With a sweet smile, Yi Xing entered the dark canyon. It took him a while to calm his mind and comprehend the darkness force around him. 10 days passed in a flash. The darkness force in the dark canyon was broad and profound, reaching the great perfection stage. Yi Xing comprehended it for 10 days and benefited greatly. His darkness force had reached the peak of the minor success stage of the arcane realm. He was not far from reaching the greater success stage of one with the heavens. Compared to the grand force of wind and grand force of fire, Yi Xing's comprehension of the grand force of darkness was not inferior at all. With Yi Xing's cultivation, reaching the peak of the arcane realm was already his limit. It was basically impossible for him to break through to one with the heavens. After his darkness force reached the peak of the arcane realm, Yi Xing left the dark canyon and returned to the falling star sect. The first day of the 12th lunar month was when the true Xian region's team would depart for the divine continent mountain. Yi Xing had to reach the 9 heavens city before that day. Yi Xing rested for 5 days in the falling star sect. 5 days later, he rode the lightning golden-feathered eagle and set off for the 9 heavens city. As for the 4-winged black tiger that was equivalent to a 7 stars enlightened being, it was left as a guardian beast. When Yi Xing left the Gu Tianshang, Hua Tianfeng, and Lin Tongyu all made breakthroughs in their cultivation after absorbing the corpse jades. Gu Tianshang became a 2-star enlightened master. Hua Tianfeng successfully broke through the astral realm and became a 1-star enlightened master, and Lin Tongyu became a 9-star martial saint. Yi Xing had already passed the position of sect leader of the Falling Star sect to Gu Tiansheng. Outside Thea Greater Success Stage 3 formation was set up. With Wu Yu guarding the Falling Star sect had nothing to fear even if a high-level astral realm enlightened being came. With the Falling Star sect free of worries, Yi Xing could travel outside with peace of mind. This time, the speed of his journey to the 9 heavens city was more than twice as fast as the previous time. He only took a few days to arrive. Upon reaching the 9 heavens city, the first thing Yi Xing did was to go to the Earth Carnage sect. The 7 Kill Alliance's assassins were invited by the Earth Fiend sect's vice sect master, Shi Dao Tian, from the Green Feather domain. Yun Tianhao had already been killed by Yi Xing, so how could Yi Xing let Shi Dao Tian off? Boom! Yi Xing arrived at the Earth Carnage sect. Without saying a word, he threw out a punch and smashed the Earth Carnage sect's gate into pieces. Bang 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 bang. The Earth Carnage sect's martial artists guarding the gate rushed towards Yi Xing. Yi Xing pushed out with both hands, and a terrifying energy sent them flying one by one. Each of them vomited blood and suffered heavy injuries. Sect leader, something bad has happened. Yi Xing has killed his way in. In the inner hall of the Earth Carnage sect, a half-step perfected person rushed in. At this moment, the Earth Carnage sect was in the middle of a meeting. Sect leader Chao Yanting and vice sect leader Shidao Tian were both in the hall. Hearing this, they were both stunned. Chao Yanting asked, Yi Xing? Which Yi Xing? Chao Yanting had never expected that the person who could kill his way into the Earth Carnage sect would be Yi Xing, the #1 junior in the true Xian region. That half-step perfected person said, It's Yi Xing, the #1 in the Young Hero Assembly last year. He injured the disciples guarding the gate and destroyed our sect's gate. He even destroyed the array formation there. In the hall, all the Earth Carnage sect's elders' faces changed. Chao Yanting waved his hand and shouted, Go out and take a look. At the same time that Chao Yanting received the news of Yi Xing breaking into the Earth Carnage sect also spread in the Nine Heaven City. Everyone who heard it was shocked. The Earth Carnage sect was a colossus that was second only to the 9 high sects. Yi Xing had only risen in the Young Hero Assembly last year and was a junior genius. Although Yi Xing was the #1 junior in the true Xian region, it had only been a year. Yi Xing had already grown to the point where he could disregard the Earth Carnage sect. Yi Xing's sudden attack on the Earth Carnage sect had obviously caught the Earth Carnage sect off guard. His array formation skills were profound, and his super brain could see through the structure of the array formation. Therefore, by the time the Earth Carnage sect's sect lord and elders came out, the Earth Carnage sect's array formation had basically been destroyed by Yi Xing. Stop! Chao Yanting exclaimed as he came out and looked at the devastated sect's formation. Boom! Yi Xing didn't hold back. The last array formation was completely destroyed by him. The Earth Carnage sect was located in the 9 Heaven City. Although they didn't have as many array formations as the other sects that occupied the mountains, they still had quite a number of them. Chao Yanting and the others were all shocked. In such a short time, Yi Xing had actually destroyed all these array formations. Chao Yanting roared, Yi Xing, how dare you? How dare you humiliate the Earth Carnage sect like this? Even if you are protected by the Big Dipper sect, I will make you pay the price today. I will make you die today. Yi Xing strode into the Earth Carnage sect. His gaze swept across the Earth Carnage sect martial artists as he said, Price? Even the Earth Carnage sect knows the price. Then, what kind of price would someone have to pay to hire the 7 Kill Alliance to take my life? The moment Yi Xing said this, Chao Yanting, Shidao Tian, and the others who knew the truth all had a change in expression. The 7 Kill Alliance had a very good reputation. Their assassins wouldn't reveal their employer's information. Then, how did Yi Xing know that it was the Earth Carnage sect who hired the 7 Kill Alliance? Chao Yanting's expression quickly returned to normal as he said, Nonsense. What 7 Kill Alliance? I have never even heard of it. How could someone in my sect hire the 7 Kill Alliance's assassins? Yi Xing smiled coldly. His gaze swept past Chao Yanting and landed on Shidaoyan as he said, Shidaoyan, you dare to do it but don't dare to admit it? Of course, I don't care if you dare to admit it or not. I just want to take your life. That is the price. Shidaoyan's eyes flashed with shock. Yi Xing actually knew that he was the one who hired the 7 Kill Alliance. As the Earth Carnage sect lord, Chao Yanting was enraged when someone came knocking on his door. He shouted, This is my Earth Carnage sect. How dare you act so presumptuously? First of the 10 chapters. Please vote for me. Chapter 479. What's so great about the Earth Fiend sect? Yi Xing said indifferently as he looked around. He didn't put the Earth Fiend sect's elders in his eyes at all. Today, I'm going to kill my way into the Earth Fiend sect and take Shidaoyan's life. Who dares to stop me? The Earth Fiend sect's sect master and elders were all stunned. Yi Xing had broken through the Earth Fiend sect's array and killed his way in. This meant that his strength was at least at the level of a 6-star sage. The sect master and vice sect master with the highest cultivation present were only 5-star sage. At the end of last year, Yixing had just broken through to the astral realm. In less than a year, he had actually grown to such a level. It was truly shocking and unbelievable. Chao Yanting hurriedly gestured for the people beside him to go and invite the 3 Grand Elders. However, before he could send people to invite them, the commotion caused by Yixing breaking the array was too great. The 3 Grand Elders of the Earth Fiend sect had already come out of seclusion. Who dares to behave atrociously in my Earth Fiend sect? 3 loud voices came from different directions in the Earth Fiend sect's back mountain. 3 figures shot over from the sky. These 3 people weren't young anymore. The youngest of the 3 looked to be in his 60s, while the oldest looked to be in his 80s. Greetings to the 3 Grand Elders. Chao Yanting, Shi Daotian, and the others hurriedly bowed to the 3. The 3 Grand Elders of the Earth Fiend sect were Chao Gongming, Shi Hongyi, and Gu Xinghong. The Chao clan, Shi clan, and Gu clan were the 3 strongest clans in the Earth Fiend sect. The sect master, Chao Yanting, belonged to the Chao clan. The vice sect master, Shi Daoyun, belonged to the Shi clan. The Gu clan also had a vice sect master. As for cultivators with other clans, the highest rank they could reach in the Earth Fiend sect was an elder. Chao Yanting immediately sent a voice transmission to the 3 Grand Elders about Yixing's situation. Among the 3 Grand Elders, the oldest was Chao Gongming. He was also the first Grand Elder. Hearing this, he glared at Yixing. Chao Gongming shouted, "Don't think that just because you have the Tiangang sect backing you up, you can do whatever you want. How dare you barge into my Earth Fiend sect and break the sect's rules? This sect will kill you on the spot, and the Tiangang sect will not blame us. On account of the Tiangang sect's face, this sect can spare you this once. Get out of the Earth Fiend sect now, or this sect will not spare you." Yixing took a step forward as he circulated his astral energy. His aura erupted forth, instantly causing the clouds to change color as sand and pebbles were kicked up into the air. A horrifying aura pressed down on the Earth Carnage sect martial artists. Yixing walked forward step by step and said, "What do you mean by giving Heavenly Dipper sect face? You're just flattering me. Do I, Yixin, need your Earth Carnage sect to spare me? Today, I must kill Shi Daotian and all those who participated in hiring the 7 Kills Alliance to assassinate me. No one can stop me." The 3 Grand Elders exchanged glances as intense killing intent flashed in their eyes as they nodded slightly. Chao Gongming said coldly, "Arrogant brat, refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Junior Martial Brother Gu, let's attack together and kill this thief on the spot." Yixing had broken through the Earth Fiend sect's protective array. As a 6-star Dao Master, Chao Gongming was very wary and did not dare to fight with Yixing alone. Instead, he wanted to team up with Shi Hongyi and Gu Xinghong. Shi Hongyi and Gu Xinghong revealed a trace of an evil smile as they nodded at the same time. When Yixing killed his way into the Earth Carnage sect, they all wanted to kill Yixing on the spot. However, in order to prevent the Heavenly Dipper sect from talking about this in the future, Chao Gongming had spoken up first. In reality, they knew very well that since Yixing had already killed his way into the Earth Carnage sect, he would definitely not back down because of their threats. This way, they could kill Yixing openly. Outsiders only knew that the Earth Carnage sect had 3 6-star Dao Masters as Grand Elders, but they did not know that the 3 Grand Elders of the Earth Carnage sect cultivated joint martial arts. When the 3 of them worked together, they could defeat opponents of a higher cultivation level. Their strength was above the 7-star Dao Masters. In other words, the 3 of them could defeat ordinary 7-star Dao Masters even if they worked together. The Earth Carnage sect was the #1 sect in the True Xin region not only because of the 3 6-star Dao Masters that outsiders knew, but also because of the terrifying strength of their joint attacks. There was a huge gap between the 6-star realm and the 7-star realm. A 6th-star realm cultivator was still a Dao Master. Those above the 7-star realm could be called Dao Masters. Normally, if the 3 6-star Dao Masters worked together, they would be able to fight against the most ordinary 7-star Dao Masters. Furthermore, they would definitely lose if the battle dragged on. However, the three Grand Elders of the Earth Carnage sect could defeat an ordinary 7-stars Dao Master when they worked together. This was already extremely powerful. Bush. Chao Gongming, Shihongyi, and Gu Xinghong flew into the sky. A pair of wings appeared behind each of them as they stood in the air in a triangular formation. Bush. The three terrifying auras exploded. When they combined, the power they created was even stronger than Yi Xing's. Wild winds blew, and sand and pebbles flew everywhere. Chapter 480. Everyone was shocked. The joint attack of the three Earth Fiend sect's supreme elders was so powerful, but it was broken by Yi Xing with a single punch. Chao Gongming, Shihongyi, and Gu Xinghong were shocked. They knew how powerful their joint attack was. Even an ordinary 7-star venerable wouldn't be able to block it. If Yi Xing could block it, didn't that mean that Yi Xing's battle prowess was comparable to venerable 7-stars when he was only at the 5th level of the astral realm? Chao Gongming and the other two exchanged glances. Their eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Kill! The three of them shouted in unison. Their killing intent soared as they performed their joint attack. Palm prints filled the sky as they continuously attacked Yi Xing. Yi Xing stood on the ground like an iron tower. He didn't even take half a step back as he performed the flaming dipper fist. Combined with the power of the flames, his fist was unparalleled. No matter how fierce the attacks were, Yi Xing blocked them one by one. Chao Gongming and the other two had sweat on their foreheads. Seeing that their attacks weren't working, Chao Gongming's eyes flashed fiercely as he shouted, "Kill him! Earth Fiend Dipper Sword Slash." As he spoke, Chao Gongming waved his hand and a supreme-grade spiritual weapon flew out. It was shining brightly. At the same time, starlight flashed between the three's eyebrows as they used their astrology. 3 gigantic stars hung high in the sky, and the power of the 3 constellations fell down, fusing into the sword. In an instant, the sword shone with 100 zhang of light, revealing a terrifying power that caused one's heart to palpitate. Chao Gongming waved his hand and chopped down. That 1,000-feet-long supreme-grade spirit weapon treasure sword flew towards Yi Xing with boundless might and chopped down. Crush! The sky was split in half by the sword. Before the sword radiance arrived, the terrifying sword chi had already split open a passage in the void. Yi Xing was right in the middle of this sword chi passageway. He felt as if thousands of sharp blades were shuttling back and forth, constantly slicing his body. Even Yi Xing was moved by the might of this sword. This Earth Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash was the Earth Fiend sect's trump card. When used by many people, the attack could kill enemies whose cultivation levels were much higher than their own. With this Earth Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash, it would be easy to kill Venerable 7-star. Only the peak Venerable 7-star could contend against it. In that instant, Yi Xing activated his superbrain to scan the area. At the same time, he used his fire astrology and his wind force, which was at the peak of refinement realm, and disappeared in a flash. Chao Gongming laughed and shouted, "You want to hide? The Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash has already locked onto your aura. No matter how fast you dodge, you won't be able to escape the outcome of being sliced into two." Ah! Chao Gongming stopped laughing halfway because the Earthly Fiend Tiangang Sword Slash didn't deviate from its direction. This meant that Yi Xing didn't dodge in another direction. They saw that Yi Xing actually did not retreat but instead advanced, rushing towards the Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash. The Black Dragon Spear appeared in Yi Xing's hands and he thrust it out. Fire energy gathered at the spear point. Like a blazing sun, it emitted a terrifying strength and a blinding light. Explode! As this spear was about to collide with the Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash, the blazing sunlight at the Black Dragon Spear's point suddenly exploded, erupting with a terrifying strength. Sunflame Spear Art, Flame Explosion. This was the strongest finishing move of the Sunflame Spear Art. This spear strike pierced through the weak points of the Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash. Moreover, it was the strongest strike of the Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash. The 1,000-foot-long Earthly Fiend Big Dipper Sword Slash immediately collapsed, blown apart by Yi Xing's spear strike. Chao Gongming, Shihongyi, and Gu Xinghong's complexions all changed. They were horrified. They never imagined that their strongest strike would be broken apart by Yixing. Moreover, their complexions paled. They were affected by the recoil and the blood within their bodies tumbled, making them feel extremely uncomfortable. Whether it was the martial artists of the Earth Fiend sect or those watching from outside, all of them were left dumbfounded. Yixing's spear broke apart the earthly fiend Big Dipper sword slash. He coldly shouted, "You guys should also receive my attack." Sunflame's spear art, chasing sun. As Yixing spoke, he thrust out his spear. His target was Chao Gongming, who stood in front of the three of them. By the time Yixing's voice fell, Yixing's spear had already arrived in front of Chao Gongming. Just how fast was this spear strike? It was fused with the wind potential of the peak of the minute subtlety realm. There was no way to avoid it. Chao Gongming's face shook, a trace of panic and fear in his eyes. Earthly fiend Big Dipper sword. Chao Gongming cried out in alarm. He pushed his palms forward. Xianxia and Gu Xinghong also pushed their palms forward. The strength of their palms gathered together, forming a dazzling wall of light that blocked in front of them. The power of Yixing's spear strike wasn't simple at all. When the potential of fire was combined with the Fire Star avatar, its might was terrifying. Moreover, Chao Gongming and the other two's joint attack had a formidable striking power that could even be ranked in the upper echelons of 7 stars. But their defensive power wasn't as outstanding. Sila, the wall of light was pierced through by the Black Dragon Spear. The spear point continued to emit astral light, instantly piercing through Chao Gongming's throat. The Black Dragon Spear thrust out and retracted. With a violent vibration, a massive hole appeared in Chao Gongming's throat. Chao Gongming clutched his throat, blood wildly gushing out. His eyes were ashen as he fell from the skies. Screams rang out from the Earth Fiend sect martial artists. The head of the 3 highest elders, Chao Gongming, had actually died under Yixing's hands. The Earth Fiend sect martial artists were shocked and panic-stricken. After Chao Gongming died, the ones most frightened were Xianxia and Gu Xinghong. They were standing behind Chao Gongming, and now that Yixing had killed Chao Gongming, there was no longer any resistance between them. How could the two of them not be afraid? Even when the 3 of them joined forces, they still weren't Yixing's match. Now that their joint attack had been broken, Xianxia and Gu Xinghong were well aware that they weren't a match for Yixing's spear. They turned and fled. In terms of speed, how could the two of them compare with Yixing, who had stepped into the peak of subtle with his potential of fire? Yixing's figure flashed like a bolt of lightning, instantly chasing after them. Solar Flame Spear Art, Burning Annihilation. Solar Flame Spear Art, Chasing Thunder. One after the other, 2 spear moves shot out, both of them stabbing toward Xianxia and Gu Xinghong's backs. Chasing Thunder was even faster than Burning Annihilation. Although it was released later, it seemed as if it had struck at the same time as Burning Annihilation. Xianxia and Gu Xinghong cried out miserably at the same time. Their bodies fell from the skies, following in Chao Gongming's footsteps and dying in the yellow springs. Yixing landed on the ground. He pointed the Black Dragon Spear at an angle, blood dripping from the spear point. He walked forward step by step, his eyes locking onto Xianxia. Who else participated in inviting the 7-Kill Alliance's assassins? Xianxia drew back again and again, a panic-stricken expression on his face. He glanced at Chao Yanting. At this time, Chao Yanting no longer had the dignity of a sect master. He was like a frightened bird, trembling with fear. As Xianxia looked at Chao Yanting, he jumped up like a cat that had its tail stepped on. He quickly shook his head and said, "I don't know. I don't know at all. Inviting the 7-Kill Alliance's assassins was Yun Tianhao's idea. It was Xianxia's idea. It had nothing to do with me." Chapter 481. Yixing looked at Chao Yanting and laughed. Yun Tianhao came up with the idea and Xianxia did it, but sect leader Chao knew about it clearly. It seems like sect leader Chao's death was not unjust. Chao Yanting instantly realized that he had said something wrong. After hearing Yixing's words, his face turned pale instantly. At this moment, he was filled with regret. The enmity between the Earth Fiend sect and Yixing was because of Xianxia. Xianxia being crippled was originally a good thing for Chao Yanting. It would solidify his position as the sect leader. Chao Yanting hated himself. Why did Yi Xing do something that was beneficial to him? Why did he have to involve himself in the matter of asking the Seven Kill Alliance to assassinate Yi Xing? Why did he get into trouble for no reason? Xianxia was Daotian's son, and Daotian was the one who wanted revenge. If Chao Yanting had not gotten involved, today's disaster would not have befallen him. From now on, he would still be the sect leader of the Earth Fiend sect. However, there were no ifs in this world. If one did something wrong, one had to pay the price. Yi Xing had killed the 3 Grand Elders of the Earth Fiend sect. He had completely suppressed the martial artists of the Earth Fiend sect. Looking at him, the martial artists of the Earth Fiend sect only felt fear in their hearts. No one dared to stop Yi Xing. Yi Xing had easily killed the sect leader of the Earth Fiend sect, Chao Yanting, and the vice sect leader, Daotian. The Earth Fiend sect had lost 3 Grand Elders and 2 sect leaders. A total of 5 experts had fallen. The sect's strength had been greatly reduced. It was no longer the number 1 sect in the true Xian region after the 9 high sects. Instead, it had fallen to the bottom of the 1-star mid-grade sections. Furthermore, the Earth Fiend sect's sect protecting array had been destroyed by Yi Xing. It could be said that this was the most difficult moment for the sect's survival. Normally, the Earth Fiend sect relied on its strength to bully many other forces. Now that the Earth Fiend sect was in trouble, naturally, many people would kick them when they were down. The moment Yi Xing left the Earth Fiend sect, many martial artists had charged into the Earth Fiend sect to seek revenge. In the end, it was the Whitebone sect, one of the 9 superior sects of the true Xian region, who stepped in to protect the Earth Fiend sect and resolve the crisis of the Earth Fiend sect's destruction. The news quickly spread throughout 9 Heaven City and even the entire true Xian region. Yi Xing's name once again resounded in the ears of the martialists in the true Xian domain. Furthermore, it was even more shocking than the previous time. Last time, Yi Xing had broken through to the astral realm at the age of 18. He had won first place in the Young Hero Assembly, becoming the number 1 junior in the true Xian domain and ranked first in the Earth Profound ranking. This time, Yi Xing was not even 19 years old, but he was already a 5 stars true master. He killed his way into the Earth Carnage sect all by himself, killing 3 6 stars true masters and 2 5 stars true masters. Who wouldn't be shocked by such progress? Everyone was shocked by Yi Xing's progress. At the end of last year, Yi Xing had already broken the record in the history of the true Xian region. However, because he was from a remote 1-star inferior sect, there were still many martial artists who didn't like him. They thought that Yi Xing's destiny was limited and his cultivation technique inheritance wasn't high enough. It would be difficult for him to achieve great things in the end. Today, Yi Xing's performance was no different from giving these people a big slap in the face. In less than a year, he had broken through 5 realms consecutively, and they were all in the astral realm. With such a speed of growth, it would still be difficult for him to achieve great things in the end. No one doubted Yi Xing's future anymore. They could already confirm that Yi Xing's future would most likely break the record in the history of the true Xian region. Yi Xing, you really shocked me. When Yang Gang saw Yi Xing, he exclaimed in disbelief, "It took me 3 years to break through the astral realm to become a 3-star venerable. Then, it took me another 2 years to break through to a 4-star venerable. I'm still very far away from becoming a 5-star venerable. However, you've already cultivated to a 5-star venerable in a year. This speed is too fast. It's really enviable." Yi Xing scanned Yang Gang's cultivation and found that he had already consolidated to the late stage of the astral realm. This was also because he had absorbed an 8th grade spiritual grade corpse jade this year. Otherwise, it would be very good if he could cultivate to the middle stage of the astral realm. The cultivation of the astral realm was already difficult. The 4th stage of the astral realm belonged to the middle stage venerable. The cultivation difficulty was even more difficult than the first 3 stages. Yang Gang's destiny was a 6-star yellow fate. According to his normal cultivation speed, he would be able to cultivate to become a 6-star venerable before the age of 35. Now that Yang Gang was 24 years old, He would be able to break through to the 5-star Venerable in about 3 years. After that, he would be able to break through to the 6-star Venerable in about 6 years. It would take a very long time to break through to the next stage. Yi Xing was now a 9-star Yellow Fate. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to cultivate to the 9-star Venerable before the age of 35 if his destiny didn't change. His cultivation speed would be much faster than Yang Gang's. However, Yi Xing's fast cultivation speed wasn't because of his destiny. It was because he had enough corpse jades to absorb, which greatly increased his cultivation speed. That was why he could break through to the 5-star Venerable in a year. Yi Xing smiled and took out a 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade. He handed it to Yang Gang and said, "Brother Yang, absorb this 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade. It's only a matter of time before you break through to the astral realm." What Yi Xing needed now was corpse jades above the 10th grade spiritual grade corpse jade. The remaining 2 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jades had no effect on his cultivation. Yang Gang's eyes lit up and he exclaimed, "Oh my God, the best we could find was an 8th grade spiritual grade corpse jade. You actually found a 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade?" Although Yang Gang was excited, he didn't take it and continued, "A 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade is most suitable for a 5-star Venerable to cultivate. You should keep it for yourself. The East Divine Continent's Junior Genius Tournament will begin in about a month. Even if I absorb a 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade, I won't be able to break through to the 5-star Venerable." Yi Xing stuffed the 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade into Yang Gang's hands and said, "My cultivation has increased too quickly, so I don't need a corpse jade for the time being. The death chi in this 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade has been refined by someone. You can absorb it directly. A month is enough for you to break through to the 5-star Venerable." Yang Gang exclaimed, "The death chi in the corpse jade has been refined by someone? Who can refine the death chi in it?" Yi Xing smiled and said, "This is a secret. Don't tell anyone." Yang Gang nodded repeatedly. He knew that there was a sovereign behind Yi Xing. Yi Xing's matter in the Earth Fiend sect had caused a huge impact. The evil Dao forces in the True Xian region were extremely dissatisfied with this. However, because the Heavenly Dipper sect supported Yi Xing and Yi Xing's strength made the other evil Dao forces wary, they only dared to complain and didn't dare to do anything to Yi Xing. December 1st, the day to set off for the Divine Continent Mountain had finally arrived. In the 9 sect alliance's main hall, Yi Xing, Yang Gang, Mu Xiaoyue, and the other top 10 junior geniuses of the Earth Profound ranking were gathered together. Yi Xing was undoubtedly the focus of everyone's attention. Among his peers in the True Xian region, the juniors could only look up to him. Chapter 482. As a rare genius in the True Xian domain, Mu Xiaoyue had always been arrogant. Whether it was losing to Yi Xing at the Young Hero competition or losing to Yi Xing for the second time he had never given up on competing with Yi Xing. Mu Xiaoyue had always been confident that one day, he would be able to surpass Yi Xing and take back the glory that belonged to him. But now, his belief had been shattered. Mu Xiaoyue had used less than a year to break through to the 3rd level of the astral realm. Now, he was already at the peak of the 3rd level of the astral realm. He was only 1 step away from becoming a 4-star enlightened being. This speed was extremely fast. However, compared to Yi Xing, who had broken through 5 levels in a year and reached the 5th level of the astral realm, Mu Xiaoyue's speed was mediocre. At the same level, Mu Xiaoyue was no match for Yi Xing. Now that there was a gap of 2 levels, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. They were no longer on the same level. This was indeed the case. Yi Xing was now on par with the 7-star enlightened being. As for Mu Xiaoyue, although he was still strong, he was only on par with a 5-star enlightened being. Looking at Yi Xing's back, Mu Xiaoyue sighed in his heart, "Sigh. Even if I can't be on par with him, I have to follow in his footsteps and advance on the martial path with him. I'm already 1 step behind, I can't fall behind by 2 or 3 steps." In a year, the cultivation of the younger generation of the True Xian domain had changed a lot. Yang Gang had reached the 4th level of the astral realm, while Meng Ji and Baiceng were still at the 3rd level. They were no longer on the same level. Among the top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking, only Meng Ji and Baizong's cultivation had increased within the same realm. Shui Yan, Nanxinyue, Du Feiyun Shidu, and Kai Xiao's cultivation had all increased from the second level of the astral realm to the third level. If they were to compete again, Meng Ji and Baizong might not be able to maintain their fourth or fifth positions. In the past, in the True Xian Domain's Earth Profound ranking, a third-stage astral realm martial artist would be ranked first. But now, the first stage of the Earth Profound ranking was fifth-stage astral realm. Yang Gang was fourth-stage astral realm, but he was only ranked third. The top 10 of the Earth Profound ranking were all third-stage astral realm martial artists. The warriors of the True Xian Domain could tell from the younger generation geniuses on the Earth Profound ranking that this was a golden age of martial arts, and geniuses were emerging in large numbers. If the True Xian region was like this, the other regions would definitely not be any worse. It was hard to imagine how many geniuses would emerge from the East Divine Continent's Young Geniuses Grand Tournament. Some of the juniors were already 23 or 24 years old. They had already made their names a year or two ago. But there were also some juniors who were 21 or 22 years old. They were rising up from behind and would definitely shine brightly at this competition. There was bound to be an exciting and intense battle between a genius of the younger generation who had already made a name for himself and a rising star. The warriors of the True Xian Domain were very envious of the younger generation geniuses who were able to participate in the East Divine Continent's Young Geniuses Grand Tournament. Although the warriors knew that 90% of the younger generation geniuses of the True Xian Domain were cannon fodder in the East Divine Continent's Young Geniuses Grand Tournament and would be eliminated soon, they could at least watch this exciting and intense battle between geniuses. They could also get to know the younger generation geniuses of the East Divine Continent. Even if the warriors of the True Xian Domain wanted to watch, they wouldn't be able to. This was because the Divine Continent Mountain was located in the center of the East Divine Continent, and the True Xian Domain was located at the eastern edge of the East Divine Continent. The distance between the two regions was extremely far, more than 10 million miles. Even for a perfected person, it was extremely difficult to travel to the Divine Continent Mountain. After leaving the True Xian Domain, the outside world was an unfamiliar environment. Even the astral realm perfected person was filled with danger. Only a small portion of the middle-level perfected person with extremely high cultivation had left half a year earlier to head to the Divine Continent Mountain to watch the battle. Each of the 9 upper sects had sent an exalted person as a representative. Furthermore, there were also middle-level perfected person who had volunteered to watch the battle. Not long after, the perfected person and exalted person of the 9 upper sects had gathered in the 9 sect alliance's main hall. There were 9 exalted person and nearly 20 middle-level perfected person. In addition to the 10 geniuses of the younger generation, there were more than 30 people in total. Exalted Yang Gu of the Big Dipper sect was leading the team. He had a total of 3 high-tier level 3 demonic beasts. They were the demonic beasts of the Big Dipper sect, the White Bone sect, and the Boundless sect. The high-tier level 3 demonic beasts were extremely fast. They would reach the capital of the Qingyu Empire in about 10 days. After reaching the border of the Qingyu Empire through the teleportation formation, they would reach the capital of the Heavenly Wolf Empire in about 10 days. After that, they would reach the Divine Continent Mountain within a day. A month's time was sufficient. The 9 upper sects each rode their own demonic beasts according to their camp. Yi Xing naturally rode on the demonic beasts of the Big Dipper sect together with the righteous sect martial artists. Other than Yang Gang, Yi Xing's juniors were Du Feiyun of the Flowing Wind sect and Nanxinyue of the Flying Rainbow sect. Yang Gang was in a hurry to refine the 9th grade spiritual grade corpse jade so that he could break through to the 5 stars enlightened master before reaching the Divine Continent Mountain. Thus, he sat with his eyes closed the entire way. Yi Xing was also cultivating. He cultivated the spiritual grade supreme grade falling star incantation. He wanted to reach the 5th level as soon as possible so that he could strengthen his astral stars and increase his strength. Du Feiyun wanted to chat more with Nanxinyue. However, Nanxinyue's mind was not on Du Feiyun at all. She spent most of her time looking at Yixing's back. In her opinion, she was more interested in looking at Yixing's back than chatting with Du Feiyun. Yixing was already a 5 stars enlightened master at such a young age. Furthermore, his battle strength was heaven-defying. It was very likely that he would shine in the East Divine Continent's Junior Genius competition and become famous throughout the Divine Continent. Compared to Yixing, the other young geniuses of the True Xian domain were all inferior. In the True Xian domain, there were countless young female martial artists who were yearning for love. They viewed Yixing as their idol and even their dream lover. Nanxinyue was one of them. Not only Nanxinyue, but esteemed Yang Gu, esteemed Qin Feng, esteemed Qinghong, and the other elders of the 3 major sects were also sizing up Yixing. Yixing had also surprised and shocked them. A 5 stars enlightened master under the age of 20 with the battle strength of a 7 stars enlightened master. He will definitely become famous in this genius competition. Esteemed Yang Gu thought to himself. He knew that each of the East Divine Continent's top 10 young geniuses had the terrifying battle strength of a 7 stars enlightened master at such a young age. Yixing was undoubtedly at the same level as them. The difference was that among the top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent, 5 of them were from the 3 upper-rank empires, and the other 5 were from the 9 middle-rank empires. As for the 24 lower-rank empires, none of them were ranked in the top 10 young geniuses. And Yixing was from the True Xian domain, which was one of the 72 lower regions. Even the lower-rank empires did not have a single young genius ranked in the top 10 young geniuses. If the True Xian domain could produce one, how glorious would that be? They would definitely become famous throughout the East Divine Continent. It is not easy to complete 10 chapters a day, but I am working hard to complete 10 chapters a day. I hope my brothers can support me. Today's monthly votes are too few. It is already night time, and there are only a few dozen votes. My heart aches. Please give me some warmth, okay? Chapter 483. Yang Gang didn't have a black hole star vortex, so his absorption speed was much slower than Yixing's. It took him 10 days to completely absorb a grade 9 spiritual grade corpse jade, even if the death aura inside had been refined. Before arriving at the Qinyu Empire's imperial capital, Yang Gang's cultivation had finally broken through to the 5th level of the astral realm. Although a 24-year-old at the 5th level of the astral realm couldn't be compared to Yixing's under the age of 20, it was still an extremely rare cultivation speed in the True Xian domain. In the history of the True Xian domain, there had been a 9-star yellow fate genius who was only a 5-star sage at the age of 24. Even if Yang Gang didn't have the ability to challenge those of a higher level, his cultivation at the 5th level of the astral realm was enough to impress the martial artists of the True Xian domain. It was almost certain that a 24-year-old 5-star sage could break through to the 6-star sage before the age of 30. The golden cultivation time of a sage could last until the age of 35. This meant that Yang Gang had a great opportunity to break through the heavenly fate limit and become a venerable master at the 7th level of the astral realm. Venerable masters were at the pinnacle of the martial arts world in the True Xian domain. One more venerable master was a powerful force for the 9 high sects. Yang Gang was happy, but Venerable Yang Gu was even happier. The martial artists were surprised that Yang Gang could break through to the 5-star sage realm so quickly. It was really unexpected. However, no one asked about it. Venerable Yang Gu didn't ask, and Yang Gang didn't say anything. The martial artists could only guess what the reason was. In the capital of the Qinyu Empire, the martial artists of the True Xian domain were using the teleportation array. The lowest level of the teleportation array was level 4. An ordinary level 4 teleportation array could teleport up to 100,000 miles. A minor level 4 teleportation array could teleport up to 1,000,000 miles. A great level 4 teleportation array could teleport up to 10 million miles. A minor level 4 teleportation array could only be set up by a level 4 array master. A low-grade empire basically didn't have a level 4 array master. Therefore, low-grade empires usually invited a level 4 array master from a mid-grade empire to set up a minor level 4 teleportation array. It was not easy to hire a level 4 array master. Moreover, many materials were needed to set up a teleportation array. It was already very good for a low-rank empire to be able to set up a level 4 teleportation array. Some low-rank empires could not even gather the materials for a level 4 lower-rank teleportation formation, nor could they afford to hire a level 4 array master. Within their territory, there was not even a single level 4 lower-rank teleportation formation. Activating a small success level 4 teleportation array was not easy. It consumed a lot of resources. Everyone had to pay 500 mid-grade star crystals to the array manager of the Qingyu Empire before they could use the teleportation array. They were sent 1,000,000 miles away in the blink of an eye, arriving at the border of the Qingyu Empire near the center of the East Divine Continent. After another 3 days, Yixing stopped cultivating. He had finally reached the 5th level of the Spirit Tier Falling Star Incantation. The intensity of his astral energy had increased, and his strength had increased. Yixing and Yang Gang were more familiar with each other. Now that both of them were not cultivating, they began to chat. Seeing that Yixing had stopped cultivating, Yang Gang took the initiative to change the topic. The genius selection this time has gathered the younger generation geniuses from all 108 regions of the East Divine Continent. Every lower province had 10 geniuses of the younger generation, every low-rank empire had 20 geniuses of the younger generation, every middle-rank empire had 30 geniuses of the younger generation, and every high-rank empire had 40 geniuses of the younger generation. There are a total of 1,590 younger generation geniuses participating. I'm afraid that only those with the strength of a 6-star sage and above are qualified to enter the top 100. Even if I break through to the 5th level of the astral realm, I can only not fall behind in the selection. It is impossible for me to enter the top 100. Yixing, with your strength, entering the top 100 is a certainty. You might even be able to enter the top 10. Yixing was slightly surprised. Ordinary martial artists did not know the strength of the 3 grand elders of the Earth Fiend sect, but the exalted masters of the 9 high sects knew. Therefore, Yang Gang was very clear that Yixing's strength was at the level of a 7-star sage. Even so, he only had hopes of entering the top 10. It was clear that the younger generation geniuses of the East Divine Continent were all extraordinary. Yixing said, "The East Divine Continent is so vast and there are so many geniuses. Although I'm ranked first in the true Xian region, I'm nothing in the entire East Divine Continent. It's good enough to be in the top 100. I don't want to be in the top 10. Although Yixing was not clear about the cultivation of the younger generation geniuses of the East Divine Continent, it should not be too ridiculous for them to be under 25 years old. As a 7-star sage, he should be extremely powerful. However, he had no intention of competing in the genius selection. He definitely would not enter the top 10 to avoid being noticed by the Great Yuan dynasty. Therefore, he deliberately belittled himself and prepared himself for not being able to enter the top 10. Yang Gang said emotionally, "The younger generation geniuses of the low-rank empires are not that much stronger than us. The key is that the younger generation geniuses of the middle and high-rank empires are too good. They have sufficient resources, high destiny, and powerful supremacies to teach them. It is really difficult to compare. The top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent are all from the middle and high-rank empires. The younger generation geniuses of the high-rank empires are the most terrifying. The younger generation geniuses of the 3 high-rank empires occupy the top 5 positions. The other 9 middle-rank empires occupy the bottom 5 positions. There is not a single one in the low-rank empires. The top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent were the top 10 most powerful geniuses of the younger generation in the past 2 years. The true Xian region was remote, so not many people knew about the top 10 young geniuses. However, all the younger geniuses of the East Divine Continent had to participate in this year's genius selection. As a result, the top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent were known in the remote regions. Yi Xing had spent most of the year cultivating in the Sky Corpse mountain range and the rest of the time in the Falling Star sect. He had not heard of the top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent. Hearing Yang Gang's words, Yi Xing could not help but ask, "This is the first time I've heard of the top 10 young geniuses. Do all of them have the strength of a 7-star venerable?" It seems that young Master Yi is really dedicated to cultivating. The top 10 young geniuses of the Nine Heavens City have been known for a long time. Few people don't know about them. Nan Xinyue, who had been wanting to chat with Yi Xing, finally seized the opportunity and said, "The top 10 young geniuses do have the strength of a 7-star venerable. Moreover, their cultivations are all at the 6th stage of the astral realm. Each of them can defeat opponents of a higher level and have defeated a 7-star venerable before." Yi Xing smiled at Nan Xinyue and nodded. Seeing Yi Xing smile at her, Nan Xinyu was happy and her heart was beating fast. She continued, "Although the top 10 geniuses are very powerful and can challenge those of a higher level, I don't think Mr. Yi is inferior to them. Moreover, they can only challenge opponents of a higher level. However, young Master Yi is a 5-star venerable and has the strength of a 7-star venerable. In this aspect, young Master Yi is superior." Chapter 484. All the missing chapters have been filled. Seeing Nan Xinyue looking at Yi Xing with eyes full of hearts, Du Feiyun didn't feel good and was extremely jealous of Yi Xing. In his eyes, Nan Xinyu was a top beauty. She was just like a goddess. However, Nan Xinyu was cold and indifferent to him. She was smiling at Yi Xing. This difference made him feel very uncomfortable. Du Feiyun said, "What kind of people are the top 10 geniuses?" "They are the strongest young geniuses in the entire East Divine Continent. Even the young geniuses of low-rank empires aren't ranked among them. Yi Xing is indeed very outstanding in the true Shen domain, and he deserves to be number 1. However, he can't be compared to the top 10 geniuses. Each of the top 10 geniuses are mid-level venerable heavenly wills. In the future, they will at least be mid-level venerable heavenly wills. Among them, the most outstanding ones are even high-level venerable heavenly wills. They can grow to become venerable lords. Yi Xing's heavenly wills can't be venerable heavenly wills. The difference between enlightened masters and venerable heavenly wills is like heaven and earth. How can they be compared?" Yi Xing also smiled at Du Feiyun and said, "Brother Du is right. I know my own limits. I naturally can't be compared to the top 10 geniuses." Although Du Feiyun's words were unpleasant to hear, Yi Xing wanted this effect. The reason why the Great Yuan dynasty held the genius selection was to search for the demon star of troubled times, which was Yi Xing. In a small place like the true Shen domain, Yi Xing could be in the limelight. The Great Yuan dynasty wouldn't pay attention to such a small place. However, the East Divine Continent's genius selection competition was different. There were only 5 continents in the Star Continent. Unless the Great Yuan dynasty was blind, they would definitely monitor the East Divine Continent's genius selection competition. Yi Xing didn't care about Du Feiyun's words, but as one of Yi Xing's admirers, Nan Xinyue wasn't happy to hear it. Nan Xinyue glanced at Du Feiyun unhappily and said, "The top 10 heavenly talents all became 6-star perfected cultivators when they were over 21 or 22 years old. Young Master Yi, on the other hand, is only 19 years old. He broke through 5 realms in a year and became a 5 stars enlightened master. Do you think young Master Yi is far from becoming a 6 stars enlightened master? As long as young Master Yi broke through to 6 stars before the age of 20, then even the 10 prodigies would be inferior to him." This time, the genius selection was a competition of current strength, not future cultivation. Although the 10 geniuses are blessed by the heavens, their current strength may not be comparable to young Master Yi's. I believe that young Master Yi definitely has the strength to fight for the top 10. Who knows, maybe you'll be able to enter the top 10 and squeeze out one of the 10 geniuses. Young Master Yi will then become one of the 10 geniuses. The more Nan Xinyue praised Yi Xing, the more upset Du Feiyun felt. He snorted and didn't say anything. Yi Xing didn't want his reputation to be blown up, so he quickly changed the topic. "I haven't even seen the top 10 heavenly talents. It's too early to say that I can compete with them. I don't even know who they are. Brother Yang, can you introduce them to me? Yi Xing saw that Du Feiyun was jealous, so he asked Yang Gang. However, before Yang Gang could speak, Nan Xinyue said first, Young Master Yi, I know them. Mo Tong and Mo Mingyue of the Blood Edge Empire are ranked 1st and 4th respectively. Yi Wuyin and Yi Wuxia of the Black Raven Empire are ranked 2nd and 5th respectively. Ing Changkong of the Heavenly Eagle Empire is ranked 3rd. Wu Yuanjing of the Black Tiger Empire is ranked 6th. Shang Buchuan of the Ancient Shang Empire is ranked 7th. Beigong Yidao of the Bailon Empire is ranked 8th. Hu Jiaoyang of the Flaming Light Empire is ranked 9th. Qi Yun and of the Xianxia Empire is ranked 10th. Mo Tong, Mo Mingyue, Yi Wuyin, Yi Wuxia, and Ing Changkong are all young geniuses from high-rank empires. The other 5 are from middle-rank empires. Yi Xing nodded slightly, but he was secretly paying attention to Mo Tong and Mo Mingyue of the Blood Edge Empire. According to He Biao, Wei Qingxian would participate in the selection as a young genius of the Blood Edge Empire. After Nan Xinyue stopped talking, Yang Gang continued. The top 10 heavenly talents were determined a year or 2 ago. In the past year, many young geniuses have risen in the East Divine Continent, and they have hope of becoming one of the top 10 heavenly talents. Yi Xing's eyes lit up. There might be news about Wei Qingxian among them. He asked, who are they? Yang Gang said, Blood Edge Empire's Zi Xian, Black Raven Empire's Yi Binglong, Sky Eagle Empire's Ing Xiangyang, Stone Cliff Empire's Shi Jianyu, Lai Feng Empire's Feng Jianlu, and Golden Rainbow Empire's Jin Gang. They are all young geniuses who have risen rapidly in the past year. I've heard that their aptitudes aren't the least bit inferior to the top 10 geniuses. Perhaps, after this year's selection, the top 10 geniuses will change. Nan Xinyue said, among these young geniuses, there should be young Master Yi. Yi Xing's lips curled into a smile. Wei Qingxian was indeed among these young geniuses. She was the Blood Edge Empire's Zi Xian. Moreover, whether it was the top 10 heavenly talents or the young geniuses, there were geniuses with the surname Yi. This made Yi Xing feel much more relaxed. If there was no one with the surname Yi in the top 10, even if he was in the bottom 10, he would be too conspicuous. Along the way, Yi Xing listened to Yang Gang and Nan Xinyue talk about the top 10 heavenly talents, as well as some news about the young geniuses. He understood a lot about the elites of the younger generation in the East Divine Continent. The top 10 heavenly talents were all extremely powerful existences. Those young geniuses were also not weak and had the potential to become one of the top 10 heavenly talents. With so many strong opponents, even if Yi Xing wanted to enter the top 10, it would not be an easy task. Therefore, if he did not enter the top 10, he would not be outstanding. Otherwise, if the top 10 were not strong and he deliberately went easy on them, it was very likely that some experts would see through it. After leaving the Qingyu Empire, half a month later, the group from the True Shen domain arrived at the Second Empire, the Heavenly Wolf Empire. The Heavenly Wolf Empire was a middle-rank empire. The young geniuses of this generation were not very outstanding compared to other middle-rank empires. No one was ranked among the top 10 heavenly talents, nor were there any outstanding young geniuses. However, the Heavenly Wolf Empire was not too far behind among the middle-rank empires. Its strength was considered to be in the middle. In the imperial capital, there was a complete Level 4 teleportation formation. Through the Level 4 teleportation formation in the Heavenly Wolf Empire, the group from the True Shen domain traveled thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. Finally, they arrived at the central region of the East Divine Continent. They were not far from the Divine Continent Mountain. The Divine Continent Mountain was located between the Blood Edge Empire, the Black Raven Empire, and the Heavenly Eagle Empire. It did not belong to any of the empires. The mountain was tens of thousands of feet high, reaching straight into the clouds. Even sovereigns and kings could not reach the peak of the mountain. The Divine Continent Mountain was the landmark of the East Divine Continent. The East Divine Continent was also named after the mountain. The group from the True Shen domain finally arrived at the Divine Continent Mountain after nearly a month of traveling. Chapter 485. The Yuan Calendar, Year 1003, December 30th. Today was an important day. 3 years ago today, Yi Xing had arrived at the Star Continent. He had reached the age of 16, sensed the stars, and stepped onto the martial path. 2 years ago today, Yi Xing had reached the age of 17. In the Green Cloud Mountain Range, he had discovered a star crystal mine. After absorbing the star crystal spiritual milk, he had broken through to the star vortex realm and become a martial sage. 1 year ago today, Yi Xing had reached the age of 18. In the True Xian Domain's Young Hero Assembly, he had broken through to the astral realm and become a perfected person. He had won in one fell swoop, becoming the number 1 junior in the True Xian Domain. Today, Yi Xing had reached the age of 19. The East Divine Continent's Young Genius Assembly would be held at the Divine Continent Mountain. Yi Xing would compete with all the young geniuses of the East Divine Continent. However, Yi Xing did not intend to be number 1 today. He did not even intend to enter the top 10. He only wanted to enter the top 100 and obtain the right to participate in the 3rd genius selection. In the southern part of the Divine Continent Mountain, there was a valley. The terrain was gentle, and it was several li wide and 10 li long. It was very wide. The Blood Edge Empire, the Black Raven Empire, and the Sky Eagle Empire were the organizers of the genius selection. The 3 empires had sent people to this valley early on to start construction. In the center of the valley, 10 arenas had been built to serve as the venue for the genius selection. On the 2 sides of the mountain ridges, there were stone chairs for the spectators. In the depths of the valley, at the foot of the Divine Continent Mountain, there were pavilions built. The environment was clearly much better than the stone chairs on the 2 sides of the mountain ridges. The East Divine Continent had a total of 36 empires. This genius selection was a grand occasion for the East Divine Continent. Each empire had sent honorables to escort their young geniuses. The beautiful pavilions were for the honorables to watch the battles. Naturally, they were different from the ordinary stone chairs. On the 2 sides of the valley, there was a sea of people. Compared to the True Xian Domain's Young Hero Assembly, there were many more spectators. The 2 mountain ridges stretched for 10 li and were about 400 to 500 meters tall. On each mountain ridge, there were no less than 10 million martial artists watching. Moreover, most of these spectators were perfected persons. There were also quite a number of martial sages, all of whom were relatively young. They should have been brought here by their elders to broaden their horizons. Most of the spectators were from the Blood Edge Empire, the Black Crow Empire, and the Sky Eagle Empire. However, there were also some from other regions. The geniuses of the younger generation participating in the Genius Assembly were separated into 108 different locations according to the region they were in. They were together with the enlightened masters and elders of the various regions. The True Xian region was one of the most ordinary regions. It was located at the end of the mountain ridge on the right side of the valley. The names of the younger generation geniuses from the various regions had already been handed over to the people in charge of hosting the Genius Assembly in the 3 high-rank empires. The 3 upper-rank empires had sent 3 one-star martial highnesses and 10 half-martial highnesses to host the competition. Of the 3 one-star venerables, 1 was at the front of the valley, 1 was at the middle of the valley, and 1 was at the end of the valley. They were in control of the overall situation. The 10 half-step martial highness realm experts were assigned to the 10 arenas to supervise the battles between the younger generation geniuses in their respective arenas. Yi Xing looked around, searching for Wei Qingshuan's figure. Wei Qingxian was where the Blood Edge Empire martial artists were located. It was located on the same mountain ridge as the True Xian region, but it was located in the deepest part of the valley. It was not far from the pavilion where the venerables were located. As one of the 3 high-rank empires, the Blood Edge Empire martial artists were naturally located in the first place. As for the Black Crow Empire and the Sky Eagle Empire martial artists, they were located opposite the Blood Edge Empire martial artists and very close to the pavilion where the venerables were located. Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian were located on the same mountain ridge. Even though Yi Xing could see far, he could not see where Wei Qingxian was in the sea of people. After all, the distance between them was too great. There were too many people blocking his line of sight. On the other hand, Yi Xing could see the martial artists on the opposite side of the valley very clearly. Yang Gang sat beside Yi Xing and said, "Do you see those martial artists in the deepest part of the mountain ridge? They are martial artists from the Black Crow Empire. There are a total of 40 young geniuses. The two at the front are Yi Wuyan, wearing red clothes, and Yi Wuxia, wearing white clothes." Yi Xing followed Yang Gang's instructions and his gaze fell on Yi Wuyan and Yi Wuxia. Yi Wuyan was a man like fire. He wore red clothes and his skin was also red, as if there was a flame burning inside his body. Yi Wuxia was like a fairy in ice and snow. Except for her black hair, the rest of her body was snow white. Her snow-white skin and snow-white clothes were spotless. Seeing Yi Wuxia, Yi Xing could not help but think of Mu Xiaoyue. The first time he saw Mu Xiaoyue was also spotless in white clothes. Although they were separated by nearly 10 miles, Yi Wuyan and Yi Wuxia could still sense Yi Xing's gaze and looked back at Yi Xing. Yi Wuxia glanced at Yi Xing indifferently and then turned her head, ignoring him. Yi Wuyan's lips curled up, revealing a wicked smile. His eyes sharpened as he glared at Yi Xing who, in an instant, Yi Xing felt as if a sea of fire was rushing towards him, wanting to drown him and burn him to ashes. Yi Wuyan's fire grand momentum had at least reached the subtle realm. He could use the fire grand momentum to injure others. Although this was an illusion, if a martial artist's mind fell into it and thought that they were really in a sea of fire, it was possible that their mind would be burned and their mind would be damaged. Yi Xing immediately withdrew his gaze. His fire grand momentum was even more profound than Yi Wuyan's. He was only one step away from reaching perfection. Yi Wuyan's fire grand momentum had no effect on Yi Xing. Yi Wuyan was surprised. The martial artist at the end of the valley was obviously from an ordinary lower province. Yi Wuyan found it strange that a martial artist from a lower province could not be suppressed by his fire grand momentum. He sized up Yi Xing again. Yi Xing's gaze shifted to the martial artists from the Heavenly Eagle Empire next to him. The Heavenly Eagle Empire also had 40 young geniuses participating in the genius competition. All of them were mid-level perfected masters. Most of them were 4-star perfected masters, with less than half of them being 5-star and 6-star perfected masters. However, there were only 2 people who attracted Yi Xing's attention. One of them was dressed in black and had a slender figure. The other was dressed in blue and had a bright face. They were obviously Ying Changkong and Ying Sheng. One was ranked among the top 10 geniuses, and the other was a rising star. In order to avoid attracting their attention, Yi Xing's gaze only swept past them briefly. Yi Xing observed a few more junior geniuses from middle-grade empires. A few of them had extremely powerful auras. Clearly, they were either one of the top 10 prodigies or a rising star who had the potential to become one of the top 10 prodigies. Yi Xing could clearly see those on the opposite side of the mountain. However, he could not see those on the same mountain as him. Yi Xing was looking at the pavilion in the depths of the valley when a venerable flew out from it. Looking for monthly votes. Chapter 486. This person didn't have a flying spiritual tool behind him, nor did he have the astral wings. He was just walking in the air. Walking in the air without the help of external forces was something only astral reaching realm venerables could do. Astral reaching realm allowed one to comprehend the extremities of the universe and become one with the heaven and earth. To venerables, there was no difference between air, earth, or water. The only difference was their attributes. Moreover, this venerables came from the top floor of the pavilion, so he wasn't an ordinary venerables. Because venerables had different statuses in the pavilion, their levels were also different. The venerables of low-grade empires were at the bottom floor, while the venerables of mid-grade empires were at the middle floor. The highest floor was occupied by the venerables of upper-grade empires. This venerables walked in the air and arrived in the sky above the valley. Tens of millions of martial artists stopped their discussions and focused their gazes on this venerables. Many martial artists revealed reverence in their eyes. Clearly, they recognized this venerables. However, none of the true Xian region's martial artists recognized him. They didn't know who he was. The venerables in the sky first introduced himself. I am Venerables Mo from the Blood Edge Empire. I welcome friends from all over the East God continent to participate in or watch this year's competition. The true Xin region's martial artists were all shocked. The venerables in the sky were actually venerables. The venerable status among venerables was like the venerable status among Taoists. Only high-level astral-reaching realm venerables could be called venerables. This venerables Mo was at least at the 7th level of astral-reaching realm. For the true Xin region where even 1-star venerables were legends, this was too high up. Venerables Mo continued. This year's competition has a total of 1,590 participants. The first round will determine the top 100, and the top 100 will be qualified to participate in the third competition held by the Great Yuan dynasty. The second round will determine the top 10, and the top 10 will obtain the title of East God Continent's top 10 Heavens Prides. The third round will determine the top 10, and the top 10 will obtain generous rewards from the Blood Edge Empire, Black Raven Empire, and Sky Eagle Empire. The young geniuses participating in the competition were all excited upon hearing this. The rewards from the top 3 empires would definitely be extremely generous. However, only the top 10 geniuses would be rewarded. This caused 99% of the younger generation to feel despair. The difficulty was too high. Even the top 10 geniuses did not have a 100% chance of succeeding. This was because, after this competition, there was an 80% to 90% chance that one of the original 10 geniuses would be eliminated. Yi Xing felt that it was a pity. He was very confident in his own strength. It was hard to get first place, but it shouldn't be a problem to get into the top 10. However, compared to the reward, his life was more important. He could only give up on the top 10 reward. In the sky, Reverend Mo paused for a moment and continued. There are a total of 10 arenas in the valley. The first round of the competition will be divided into 100 groups, and each group will have their own arena. When the competition starts, leaving the arena will be considered as a failure. The last person remaining on the arena will advance to the second round. The second round of the competition would be divided into 10 groups. The rules were the same as the first round. Those who remained in the arena at the end would be the top 10 and would advance to the third round. Those who lost would have a chance to challenge someone else. In the third round of the competition, the 10 people will fight one after another. One victory will accumulate 1 point. The points will determine the rankings from 1st to 10th, and they will be rewarded accordingly. After Reverend Mo finished speaking, he looked at the younger generation below and sized them up one by one. He continued. The chances of entering the top 100 and obtaining the right to participate in the third genius selection competition are very low. The chances of entering the top 10 and obtaining the rewards from the 3 upper rank empires are even lower. However, the younger generation participating in the competition, please don't be discouraged. It's time for the Divine Continent Mystery Realm to open again. After discussion among the 3 upper rank empires, regardless of victory or defeat, all participants will obtain the opportunity to enter the Divine Continent Mystery Realm to train. Most of the martial artists from the ordinary regions did not know about the Divine Continent Mystery Realm. However, the martial artists from the 3 upper-rank empires were all excited. The Divine Continent Mystery Realm was located in the Divine Continent Mountain. Usually, only the 3 upper-rank empires and 9 middle-rank empires could lay their hands on this treasure ground. Even the younger generation martial artists from the lower-rank empires were not qualified to enter. Although the martial artists from the ordinary regions did not know about the Divine Continent Mystery Realm, they could tell from the words that this was a treasure ground. There would definitely be benefits if they entered. All the martial artists were excited. Reverend Mo looked at the delighted younger generation martial artists and revealed a smile on his face. He said, "All right. The great meet of the younger generation of the East Divine Continent will now begin. Everyone listen to the order and enter the arena." After speaking, Reverend Mo stepped into the void and returned to the highest level of the guest house. At the highest level, there were more than 10 reverends. Some were ordinary reverends, while others were high-level reverends. As a high-level reverend from the Blood Edge Empire, Reverend Mo Jian's position was definitely at the forefront of the East Divine Continent. However, when Reverend Mo Jian returned to the guest house, he did not sit on the main seat in the middle. Instead, he went to the guest seat on the left side of the main seat. On the main eagle sat a young man. This person looked very young, similar to the younger generation participating in the genius selection competition. However, the aura that he exuded was not present in any of the younger generation geniuses. Even Reverend Mo Jian appeared weak and respectful in front of this young man. Reverend Mo Jian was not in a hurry to take a seat. Instead, he bowed before the young man and said, "Your Highness, the genius selection competition has begun. Please take your time to enjoy it." "Your Highness." The crown prince who could make Reverend Mo Jian act so respectfully was definitely not the crown prince of an empire. He could only be the crown prince of a dynasty. There was only one dynasty in the entire Star Continent, the Great Yuan dynasty. There was only one crown prince in the entire Great Yuan dynasty, Meng Yuanxing. Meng Yuanxing waved his hand gently and gestured for Reverend Mo Jian to sit down. After Reverend Mo Jian sat down, he said nonchalantly, "I prefer to hear people call me Yuan's Sage Monarch." Yuan's Sage Monarch? Meng Yuanxing, who looked like the crown prince of the Great Yuan dynasty, was actually a monarch at the Star C grade. Upon hearing Meng Yuanxing's words, all the reverends on the highest floor of the pavilion raised their eyebrows. 29 years ago, when the Star Continent had opened, Meng Yuanxing, who was still a crown prince at that time, had swept his peers across the Star Continent, won first place, and became a son of the stars. He had entered the Star Continent and experienced a great opportunity. After that, Meng Yuanxing's cultivation base had advanced by leaps and bounds. Even though he had remained in the astral reaching realm, it had not taken him too long. In a short span of 20 years, Meng Yuanxing had broken through to the Star C grade and become a monarch. He had become a monarch at the age of 43 and had a lifespan of 1,000 years. He had become one of the 5 youngest people in the Great Yuan dynasty to break through to the monarch realm. This is the 9th update. My ears are ringing. My chi is tired and my mind is tired. This is unbearable. However, I will persevere and continue to write the 10th update. I will do as I say. Chapter 487. The 4 people who had broken through to the monarch realm at a younger age than Meng Yuanxing happened to be the 4 4-star monarchs of the Great Yuan dynasty. The first 3 had already passed away, while the 4th was the current supreme monarch, Meng Tai. Although Meng Yuanxing's destiny was a 1-star blue destiny, everyone believed that he would eventually become a 3-star monarch with a bright future ahead of him. In the valley, the genius trials had already begun. The 10 half-step venerates in the arena read out the names of the younger martialists who would be competing in their respective arenas. There were more than a dozen martialists in each arena. 10 groups of martialists would compete at the same time, so there were more than 100 people in total. In the end, only 10 people would enter the top 100 very quickly. The seeded contestants in the top 10 groups happened to be the top 10 young geniuses of the East Divine Continent. It was impossible for the top 10 young geniuses not to enter the top 100. Those who were assigned to the top 10 groups could only admit that they were unlucky. Without a doubt, all of them would be defeated. The top 10 young geniuses would advance to the second round and enter the top 100. Yi Xing thought to himself, "Fortunately, I wasn't assigned to the top 10 groups. Otherwise, I would have to fight against the top 10 young geniuses in order to participate in the 3rd genius trials. That would be a huge risk of exposing myself." After the top 10 groups were done, the 10 half-step venerates read out the names of groups 11 to 12. Group 11, Ying Xiangyang, Gu Tian, Li Qingqing. Group 12, Yi Binglong, Hua Ruyu, Zhao Yuan. Group 13, Zishuan, Li Qianshou, Wu Ping. When the half-step venerates in the 3rd arena read out the names, Yi Xing's eyes lit up and he immediately looked over at the 3rd arena. Wei Qingxian was wearing a purple robe, which was actually a man's outfit. Her black hair was tied up high in a man's hairstyle, which made her look like a handsome man. Martialists who could cultivate to the perfected person realm had sharp eyes and could naturally tell that Wei Qingxian was a woman in men's clothing. If she was a woman, she would definitely be a great beauty. However, what they were thinking was definitely not as perfect as Wei Qingxian in women's clothing. At best, she would be a great beauty, not much different from other beauties in the world. However, if Wei Qingxian really appeared in women's clothing, her stunning beauty would be completely revealed. She was much more perfect than what the martial artists had imagined. It was very difficult for a normal beauty to arouse the interest of martial artists above the sage level. However, with Wei Qingxuan's stunning appearance, it was inevitable that some martial artists would have lustful thoughts. Thus, even though she was still beautiful when she wore men's clothing, she didn't look as stunning as before. Yi Xing's gaze was fixed on Wei Qingxian. 2 years. He had been separated from Wei Qingxian for more than 2 years. Today, they finally met again. Wei Qingxuan's cultivation was actually 1 level higher than Yi Xing's. She was at the 6th level of the astral realm. This made Yi Xing inwardly astonished. In terms of age, Wei Qingxian was 2 years younger than Yi Xing. She should be 17 years old this year, but she was already a 6th star sage. This cultivation speed was really shocking. Yi Xing was 19 years old and was already a 5th star sage. He already felt that it was very heaven-defying. None of the martial artists of the same generation he had met could compare to him. However, Wei Qingxian was an exception. If Yi Xing knew that Wei Qingxian had also awakened her constellation, and that she was the reincarnation of an almighty, she had the memories of her previous life, the supreme destiny, and the supreme comprehension ability, Yi Xing wouldn't have thought of comparing himself with Wei Qingxian. He entered the martial Dao at the age of 16, which was a late start. In the early stages, it was impossible for him to reach Wei Qingxuan's cultivation speed. Even if he had enough opportunities, he still couldn't compare to her. The path of martial Dao became more difficult as one progressed. Only in the later stages of the path of martial Dao, when Wei Qingxuan's advantage weakened, Yi Xing might have the hope of surpassing Wei Qingxian. The seeded contestants in the 11th to 20th groups were basically the rising stars of the recent 1 or 2 years. These rising stars all had the strength to challenge the top 10 proud sons of heaven. How could the other warriors be a match for them? Naturally, they were all defeated. These rising stars followed in the footsteps of the top 10 proud sons of heaven and entered the top 100, advancing to the second round. Wei Qingxian was fighting on the stage, so she didn't notice that at the end of the valley, Yi Xing was watching her. After winning the battle, Wei Qingxian left the stage and returned to the Blood Edge Empire's area. Yi Xing couldn't see her. The younger generation of the Blood Edge Empire was led by Mo Tong and Mo Mingyue. Wei Qingxian was a rising star. Before their positions were challenged, they could only stay behind them. When Wei Qingxian returned, the cold expression on Mo Tong's face disappeared. He turned and smiled at Wei Qingxian. Mo Tong said, "Zixuan, work hard. With your strength, you have a high chance of entering the top 10. If you enter the top 10 prodigies, our Blood Edge Empire will have 3 people in it. We will surpass the Black Raven Empire and become the #1 prodigy in the East Divine Continent." Mo Tong was the #1 prodigy in the East Divine Continent. He was the #1 prodigy in the East Divine Continent. He was proud and arrogant. Even among the top 10 prodigies, he didn't put many of them in his eyes. He was cold to most of them. However, Mo Tong was different to Zixian, who had risen rapidly in the past 2 years. He was envied by countless female prodigies in the Blood Edge Empire. However, Zixian didn't have any feelings for Mo Tong. She was cold to him, just like how Mo Tong was cold to the others. Zixian said coldly, "I'll be satisfied if I can enter the top 100. The competition for the top 10 is too fierce. I don't have the mood." Mo Tong shook his head and said, "Sigh, Zixian, entering the top 10 and becoming one of the top 10 prodigies is such an honor." Mo Tong was talking excitedly at the side. Zixian couldn't hear him at all. She was looking at the 3rd stage where she was just now. The half-step hierarch on the 3rd stage said, "Group 33, Mo Yang, Beigong Yifan, Yi Xing." "Yi Xing, is it him?" Wei Qingxian murmured in her heart. When the half-martial highness uttered Yi Xing's name, he immediately discovered a young man wearing a black shirt flying into the ring. The young man was handsome and had a heroic aura. His eyes were bright and full of spirit. Who else could it be but Yixing? It's really him. I haven't seen him for more than 2 years and he has reached Star Realm level 5. He's only 1 level lower than me. How did he do it? Wei Qingxian looked at Yixing in shock. Others didn't know how talented Wei Qingxian was and how good her cultivation conditions were. However, Wei Qingxian knew it very well. When she broke through to the martial saint realm, her memory was awakened once. When she broke through to the enlightened person realm, her memory was awakened again. She knew that she was the reincarnation of an extremely powerful almighty. When she was alive, she was stronger than a king, stronger than a quasi-god. Here's the latest update. I hope you can vote for it. Happy Dragon Boat Festival, brothers and sisters. Chapter 488. On the third ring, all the cultivators whose names were called had come up. There was a total of 16 of them. Only one of them would be able to enter the top 100, while the other 15 would be disqualified. Among the 16, there was 1 6-star sage, 3 5-star sage, 5 4-star sage, and 7 3-star sage. Without a doubt, the 6-star sage Mo Yang was the seeded contestant in this group. Not only did he have the highest cultivation, but he was also a genius from the upper-rank empire, Shuefeng Empire. Other than Mo Yang, the other 3 5-star sage could also enter the top 100. After all, the genius competition was a gathering of all the geniuses in the Eastern Divine Continent. It was not rare to find geniuses who could challenge those with higher cultivation levels. Even the 72 lower districts had geniuses who could challenge those with higher cultivation levels. Some even had more than one. However, the cultivators from the lower districts had lower cultivation levels. Most of them were 3-star sage, and the stronger ones were 4-star sage. There were only a few 5-star sage. Even though they had the ability to challenge those with higher cultivation levels, they had no hope of entering the top 100. The 1,590 participants were divided into 100 groups. Each group had either 16 or 15 people, with at least 1 6-star sage or a 5-star sage whose strength was comparable to a 6-star sage. Without the strength of a 6-star sage, it was impossible to enter the top 100. The difference between the lower and upper districts was obvious in the genius selection. Even the geniuses from the lower districts who could challenge those with higher cultivation levels would be suppressed by the geniuses from the upper districts. Not to mention that the geniuses from the upper districts also had geniuses who could challenge those with higher cultivation levels. In comparison, the geniuses from the lower districts were much weaker. The half-step martial highness on the third ring stepped aside and yelled, "Those who fall off the ring lose. The last one standing will be the winner and enter the top 100. Begin." Whoosh 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 whoosh. As soon as the half-step martial highness gave the order, all the cultivators on the third ring activated their astrology. In an instant, more than 10 stars floated in the air, shining brightly. Not only the third ring, but the other rings also began to battle. All of them were using their astrology. The sky above the valley was filled with stars. Bang bang bang. The moment the battle began, the 3 stars venerables were in trouble. They were the primary targets. Under the attacks of the 4 stars venerables and 5 stars venerables, the 3 stars venerables were basically unable to put up any resistance. One by one, they were blasted off the stage. Yixing also used the flame astrology in order to not appear too special. However, he did not use the power of the great power of fire. Even so, his strength was still extremely powerful. With a push of his palms, Venerable 3-star was sent flying by the Gangqi. Whoosh! Suddenly, a saber light flashed and slashed toward Yixing's head. This saber strike was fast and ruthless. The attacker was a 5-star Venerable, Beigong Yifun. At this time, all the 3 stars Venerable had been blasted out of the third arena. Yixing wanted to blast away a few more Venerable 4 stars Venerable, but Beigong Yili suddenly attacked him, so he had no choice but to deal with him. Flaming Dipper Fist. Yixing wore a high-grade spirit artifact glove as he punched out. The Flaming Fist aura collided with the Blade aura. The Flaming Fist aura was cut in half. Beigong Yifan came from the Bailon Empire, a middle-ranked empire. Although he was only a 5-star enlightened master, the weapon in his hand was a top-grade spiritual weapon. Bang! The treasured saber and the flaming glove collided with a loud explosion. Beigong Yifan did not gain any advantage in the collision between a top-grade spirit artifact and a high-grade spirit artifact. His treasured saber trembled and his body was sent flying backward by Yixing's punch. Although he did not use the power of the great power of fire, Yixing used the flame astrology to perform the flaming fist. Even a 6-star enlightened master would find it difficult to block Yixing's fist. Beigong Yifan certainly could not withstand the power of Yixing's punch. Beigong Yifan was sent flying out of the arena. His eyes flashed with disbelief. His strength was invincible among the 5-star enlightened masters. He was an existence that could contend with a 6-star enlightened master. How could he be sent flying with a single punch? Seeing that Yixing sent Beigong Yifan flying with a single punch, the 6-star enlightened master Mo Yang's attention immediately fell on Yixing. He regarded Yixing as his most powerful opponent. However, Mo Yang was not in a hurry to deal with Yixing. Instead, he attacked the other younger martial artists. Yixing did the same. Soon, all the 4-star enlightened masters were sent flying out of the arena. The 5-star enlightened master was no exception. In the third arena, only Yixing and Mo Yang were left fighting for the top 100 positions. Mo Yang looked at Yixing with a faint smile on his face. He looked very relaxed and said, "I didn't expect to meet a worthy opponent in the competition for the top 100 positions." In the Blood Edge Empire's area, Wei Qingxuan's eyes were fixed on Yixing beside her. Mo Tong said excitedly, "This kid should be a younger generation from the lower district. He's actually a 5-star enlightened master and has the ability to challenge those above his level. Interesting." Unfortunately, his opponent is Mo Yang. Mo Yang's strength is above average among the 6-star enlightened masters. There aren't many 6-star enlightened masters who can defeat him. If this kid meets a weaker 6-star enlightened master, he might have a chance to enter the top 100. But against Mo Yang, he has no chance at all. Wei Qingxian, who had been ignoring Mo Tong all this while, suddenly spoke up, "Mo Yang will lose." Mo Tong frowned, and then he revealed a smile and said, "Zixuan, since you think that kid will win, then how about we make a bet? If I win, you agree to a condition of mine, and if you win, I agree to a condition of yours." Zixuan shook her head and said, "Although you will lose, I won't bet with you." Mo Tong chuckled and said, "In terms of destiny, you have a higher chance. But in terms of strength and insight, you are not as good as me. Just wait and see, Mo Yang will win." At this moment, on the third arena, Yixing and Mo Yang had already started to fight. Supreme Class Spiritual Weapon, Fierce Blood Claw. Supreme Class Spiritual Weapon, Flame Fist. In terms of martial arts, Mo Yang had a higher chance. But in terms of martial arts attainment, Yixing had the upper hand. Plus, Yixing's flame astrology was at the peak of the upper class astrology. His spiritual level Supreme Class Falling Star incantation had reached the 5th level. The strength of his astral energy was even stronger than that of a 6-star enlightened master. Even though Mo Yang's gloves were Supreme Class spiritual weapons, he was still forced to retreat after the collision. Fierce Blood-Killing Claw. Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar. Both of them performed their best moves. Mo Yang clawed out and a crimson-red claw shadow shot out. Yixing punched out and a fire dragon and a fire tiger appeared. The roar of the dragon shook the sky. Boom! The two of them collided again and a terrifying airwave spread out in all directions. That terrifying shockwave hit Mo Yang again and again. Mo Yang could not withstand it and his body was instantly knocked out of the arena. In the third arena, only Yixing was left. He had made it into the top 100. The rest of the people were all eliminated. The next few days will be a normal update. 2 chapters a day. Rest. Starting from the 25th, it will explode until the end of the month. Begging for another monthly ticket. Thank you. At first, his performance was mediocre, but later on, his bloodline underwent atavism and his destiny awakened. He rose rapidly on the path of martial arts and became the #1 genius of the younger generation in the true Shen domain. Before he was 20 years old, his cultivation had already reached the 5th level of the astral realm. It is said that Yi Xing has a venerable behind him who is nurturing him. Meng Yuansheng looked at Mo Jian and said, "Is he really the son of a martial arts family? Did he grow up in the family? Are you sure?" Honorable Lord, Mo Jian nodded. "This matter is confirmed." Si Kongyan deduced that the chaotic era demon star came from outer space. 2,000 years ago, there had been people from outer space who had come to the star continent. For the Great Yuan dynasty, this was also a chaotic era demon star who had tried to overthrow the Great Yuan dynasty. Meng Yuansheng's first impression of the visitors from outer space was of the founder of the Dark Star sect 2,000 years ago. However, when he saw that Yi Xing was a member of a small martial arts family in the true Xin region, his doubts were dispelled. The Great Yuan dynasty attached great importance to the chaotic era demon star that had appeared this time. They had spent 3 years organizing a genius selection competition for the entire star continent in order to accurately find the chaotic era demon star and kill it in one fell swoop. Before determining the chaotic era demon star, they couldn't act rashly. If they caught a genius with the surname Yi and killed him, they were afraid that there would be bad consequences. Of course, the Great Yuan dynasty wasn't worried that some geniuses with the surname Yi would rebel against them. Instead, they were worried that the chaotic era demon star wouldn't be killed and would become vigilant and not appear again. The Great Yuan dynasty wasn't afraid of killing the wrong person, but they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to find the chaotic era demon star. If the chaotic era demon star had hidden his identity and changed his name to participate in the genius selection competition, how could the Great Yuan dynasty not know the Great Yuan dynasty's motive? What the Great Yuan dynasty hadn't expected was that the Dark Star sect had already found the chaotic era demon star. Yi Xing, the chaotic era demon star, was very clear about their motive. Therefore, Yi Xing didn't use a fake name to participate in the genius selection competition. If he used a fake name and was found out, it would expose him. Therefore, he used his real name to participate in the competition. As long as the Great Yuan dynasty couldn't confirm that he was the chaotic era demon star, they wouldn't act rashly. Yi Xing was very sure about this. The Dark Star sect was also very sure. The Great Yuan dynasty had spent a lot of money, so they definitely wouldn't give up halfway. Chapter 490. The fourth group didn't have any outstanding newcomers, but there was Mo Mingyue, who was ranked 4th among the top 10 geniuses. The young geniuses who could enter the top 100 had battle power at least at the level of a 6-star sage. Although the rules of this round were the same as the first round, with only one winner entering the next round, the process was slightly different. In the last round, the entire group of martial artists went up the stage and attacked together, leaving the last one. This round obviously couldn't be like that. Otherwise, if 9 martial artists joined hands first, even if the last one had the strength of a 7-star sage, he would still be eliminated. The second round was a one-on-one battle. The final winner would enter the top 10 and enter the third round. Each group consisted of 10 juniors. They would fight in pairs. First, they would be divided into 5 teams. The 5 winners would be the seeded contestants. The other 4 would be divided into 2 teams. The 2 winners would continue to fight. The winners would fight against the seeded contestants to fight for first place. The winner would enter the top 10. Yi Xing's first opponent was Xianxia from Sky Eagle Empire. He was also a 5-star sage, and had the ability to fight above his realm. The first battle was between Mo Mingyue and a 6-star sage. Mo Mingyue easily won with one move. The second battle was between Yi Xing and Xianxia. On the 4th stage, Xianxia looked at Yi Xing with a smile, a mere lower region junior. It's not easy to become a 5-star sage, and it's even harder to defeat a 6-star sage. Unfortunately, you met me, Xianxia. Otherwise, you might have lost a bit later. As a genius of an upper-rank empire and a 5-star sage, he could also fight above his realm. However, Xianxia still thought that he was a bit stronger and superior. Yi Xing's expression was normal as he said, "Please enlighten me." Among the spectators, there were astral-reaching realm experts. Yi Xing didn't want to go easy on them and let them see through his trick. He didn't use the power of heaven and earth, nor did he use the superbrain to scan. He only used the fire star form and his flame dipper fist at perfection. In this state he would attack with all his strength. As for whether he would win or lose, it would depend on the opponent. Eagle soars the sky. As soon as Xianxia made his move, he used his astrology and took out an extreme grade spirit spear. He performed one of the ultimate moves of the flying eagle spear technique. Astral shattering the world. Yi Xing also used the fire astrology. Wearing the blazing flame gloves, he punched out like a needle against an awl. The eagle in the sky was shattered by the flaming fist. Yi Xing strode forward, but Xianxia's figure shook and he retreated 3 steps. Xianxia was shocked. Xianxia laughed and said, "If you wear women's clothes and make me happy, maybe I'll let you win this round." Wei Qingxian interrupted Xianxia's words. "Just you alone?" Xianxia was looked down upon by Wei Qingxian. His face was angry. In a flash, a starlight flew out from between his eyebrows and he shouted, "Me!" The starlight in the sky turned into a huge water star. This star was a vast ocean, with extremely surging water star power. It was definitely the first grade among the upper-class stars. The corner of Wei Qingxuan's mouth curled up. Until now, she had not used her astrology. Xianxia saw that Wei Qingxian did not even use her astrology and was even more furious. He shouted, "Arrogant, I'll let you have a taste of the power of the 9 styles of the soaring dragon." While speaking, Xianxia waved the black house in his hand. The horrible water star power fell and condensed with the water star power, turning into a huge water dragon, rushing towards Wei Qingxian. Wei Qingxian was wearing a pair of white gloves, which was a top-grade spiritual weapon. She gently patted with her palm. In an instant, the cold wind blew and the sky was full of snow. The temperature of the entire arena was instantly lowered to the extreme. The water dragon was swept by Wei Qingxuan's ice palm wind and suddenly turned into an ice dragon, stopping in its tracks. Xianxia looked shocked. What a horrible ice power. The chill from the ice dragon almost froze the star power in his body. 9 dragons soaring in the sky. Xianxia shouted and displayed the unique skill of the 9 styles of the soaring dragon. In an instant, 9 water dragons appeared at the same time, attacking Wei Qingxian. "Let's see how you can resist." Xianxia sneered. Wei Qingxuan's face was cold. In an instant, a starlight flew out from between her eyebrows and turned into a star of ice and snow, suspended in the air. The ice star power fell, and the temperature in the air dropped even more. "Freeze!" Wei Qingxian shouted, and the horrible ice energy spread out. The 9 water dragons all turned into ice dragons, and Xianxia instantly turned into an ice sculpture. Chapter 491. With a wave of her hand, Wei Qingxian sent out a snow-white palm print that passed through the 9 ice dragons. The snow-white palm print seemed slow but was actually extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it blasted Xianxia's body. The ice on Xianxia's body shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying backward by Wei Qingxuan's palm strike. And the ice dragon that had turned into an ice sculpture also dissipated as Xianxia retreated, disappearing into nothingness. The snow-white star in the sky instantly shrank and turned into a ray of starlight that entered Wei Qingxuan's glabella. However, there were still many martialists watching the battle who had focused their attention on Wei Qingxuan's snow-white astrological form. Extreme grade astrological form. Some high-level astral dipper venerables exclaimed. They could feel the terrifying power contained in the snow-white astrological form. It was 1 grade higher than a superior grade astrological form. In the pavilion, the venerables were even more surprised when they saw that the astrological form Wei Qingxian had used was an extreme grade astrological form. Most of the time, astrological forms were directly proportional to one's heavenly fate. The higher the heavenly fate, the stronger the astrological form. Generally, only those with the heavenly fate of a peak venerable or even a king heavenly fate would be able to sense an extreme grade astrological form. Every grade of astrological form had a huge difference in power. Martialists of the same level with an extreme grade astrological form could easily crush those with a superior grade astrological form. In fact, if one had an extreme grade astrology, it would be easy for one to challenge an opponent with a high grade astrology. In other words, although Wei Qingxian was a 6-star venerable, she could challenge 7-star venerables with an extreme grade astrological form. On the highest floor of the pavilion, Meng Yuanxing was also paying attention to Wei Qingxian. This girl is a junior of the Shui Feng Empire. What heavenly fate does she have? Beside him, Mo Jian bowed slightly and replied, "Greetings, Sacred King Yuan. She has a 9-star green fate." Meng Yuanxing was a little surprised. Such a heaven's mandate is rare in the Middle Sky continent. If she becomes a talent, the Shui Feng Empire will be able to compete with the 12 empires of the Middle Sky continent. Reverend Mo Jian chuckled and said, "The 12 empires of the Middle Sky continent have a deep foundation. They are neighbors of the dynasty and are nourished by the dynasty's luck. How can the other 4 continents be compared to them? However, Zi Xian is talented and intelligent, and her astrology is extraordinary. If she has the hope of becoming a king in the future, I hope that the dynasty will lend her a helping hand." Meng Yuanxing smiled and nodded. As long as she serves the dynasty will give her the cultivation techniques and resources needed to become a monarch. Venerable Mo Jian smiled faintly and said, "The Blood Ridge Empire, from top to bottom, is bound to serve the dynasty. Zi Xian is no exception." The competition continued, and Yi Xing quickly welcomed his second battle. In the 4th arena, the 5 winners were Mo Mingyue, Yi Xing, Shi Junfeng, Wu Zizhen, and Ying Tongtong. As one of the top 10 sky prides, Mo Mingyue naturally had a bye. As for the other 4, Yi Xing faced Wu Zizhen, and Shi Junfeng faced Ying Tongtong. Other than Yi Xing, who was a 5-star venerable, Wu Zizhen, Shi Junfeng, and Ying Tongtong were all 6-star venerable. Wu Zizhen came from the Black Tiger Empire and was at the late stage of the 6th level of the astral realm. However, his strength was at the peak of the 6-star venerable level. Wu Zizhen looked at Yi Xing indifferently and said arrogantly, "As a 5-star venerable, it's amazing that you can persist until this point. However, now that you have met me, you won't be able to make any waves." Yi Xing smiled faintly and said, "Please enlighten me." Yi Xing couldn't wait for his opponent to defeat him. Then, he would be able to watch the rest of the battle as a spectator. However, even if Yi Xing didn't use the force of heaven and earth and didn't use the superbrain to scan, his strength wasn't something a 6-star venerable could compete with. Even a 6-star venerable wouldn't be able to defeat him. After exchanging 10 moves with Wu Zizhen, Yi Xing didn't even take half a step back. He kept moving forward while Wu Zizhen kept retreating until he reached the edge of the arena. In the 11th move, Wu Zizhen had nowhere to retreat and was blasted off the arena by Yi Xing's flaming fist. Yi Xing won another round. Yi Xing shrugged helplessly. Wu Zizhen and Ying Xiangtian were the same. Each of them was more powerful than the other, but their true strength couldn't match up to their words. As a 5-star venerable, Yi Xing's 2 wins in the 2nd round had already attracted a lot of attention. However, he wasn't the only 5-star venerable who was in the limelight. There were other 5-star venerable who also won 2 rounds in a row. Furthermore, in arena number 1, a 4-star enlightened master had won 2 consecutive matches, defeating 2 6-star enlightened masters in a row. Only then did he gain the limelight. After Yi Xing's battle, it was Wei Qingxuan's turn to fight in the 6th arena. Wei Qingxian had an extreme ice star and was far stronger than a 6-star venerable. She won easily. In the next battle in the 4th arena, Ying Tongtong defeated Shi Junfeng. Both of them were peak 6-star true masters, but Ying Tongtong was born in a high-rank empire and had been taught by stronger elders, so her performance in the battle was indeed better than Shi Junfeng's. With the same battle strength, Ying Tongtong won. However, Ying Tongtong's battle skills weren't effective against Yi Xing, who had been through real life and death battles. He wasn't much better than Wu Zizhen. He only lasted 15 moves against Yi Xing before being defeated. With Ying Tongtong's defeat, only Mo Mingyue and Yi Xing were left in the fourth arena. It was the same for the other arenas. Those who could make it to the final battle, except for the top 10 geniuses in each group, were all unrivaled among the 6 stars perfected beings, and could even be compared with the venerable 7 stars. From the 5th to the 10th group, apart from the top 10 geniuses, the other 6 newcomers naturally swept their way to the last round and fought with the top 10 geniuses for the first place. From the 1st to the 4th group, apart from the top 10 geniuses, the winners weren't ranked among the newcomers. However, the cultivators now regarded them as new members of the younger generation. The first group was Yi Xing, the second group was Yu Qinggan, the third group was Qi Xiaolong, and the fourth group was Yi Xing. Among the 4 of them, apart from Qi Xiaolong who came from the Xianxia Empire, a middle-ranked empire, Yi Tianhe and Yu Qinggan came from low-ranked empires, while Yi Xing came from one of the 72 lower districts. There are new talents in every generation. The newcomers who rose in the past 2 years are too powerful. They're not inferior to the top 10 geniuses at all. The most outstanding one is Yi Tianhe from the first group. He's only at the 4th stage of the astral realm, but his sword skills are superb. Moreover, he has the extreme Great Venus star, which allows him to challenge opponents 2 stages above him. He's invincible among the 6-star venerable ones. His battle strength is heaven-defying. The Tianshui Empire is only a low-grade empire, but it has such an outstanding junior like Yi Tianhe, who is on par with the top 10 geniuses. They're really lucky. Chapter 492. What a pity! Yi Tianhe is too young. He's only 20 years old, and his cultivation has only reached the 4th level of the astral star realm. If the genius selection was delayed, he would have reached the 6th level of the astral star realm. With his battle strength, who among the younger generation can stop him? There's no need for him to reach the 6th level of the astral star realm. In my opinion, when he was a 5-star enlightened being, his battle strength was probably at the top of the 7-star enlightened beings. Whether it's his martial attainment, comprehension of the forces of heaven and earth, or his astrology, he's far superior to others. It's too easy for him to challenge those of a higher level. This time, his opponent is Mo Tong, who ranks first among the top 10 prodigies. He's only at the 4th level of the astral star realm, so he's bound to lose. Sigh, he's not going to make it to the top 10. Mo Tong's position as one of the top 10 prodigies is unshakable. I wonder which group will be eliminated in this competition. Yu Qinggan from the 2nd group and Yi Xing from the 4th group are both 5-star enlightened beings. They don't have the ultimate astrology, so their ability to challenge those of a higher level is inferior to Yi Tianhe's. They're no match for Yi Wuyan and Mo Mingyue, who are both 7-star enlightened beings. As for the other groups, whether it's the top 10 prodigies or the rising prodigies, they're all 6-star enlightened beings and have the ability to challenge those of a higher level. It's really hard to tell who's stronger and who's weaker. The rising prodigies who were in the limelight the most weren't Yi Xing and Yu Qinggan, who defeated 6-star enlightened beings at the 5th level of the astral star realm. It wasn't Zixuan who had the ultimate astrology, but Yi Tianhe, who was only at the 4th level of the astral star realm, but had the ultimate astrology and defeated 6-star enlightened beings. Tianshui Empire, Yianhe. His name shocked every martial artist who was watching the competition. Under Yi Tianhe's radiance, the other rising prodigies seemed a little inferior. Even the top 10 prodigies couldn't overshadow his radiance. Although it was impossible for him to make it to the top 10 this time, no one thought that Yi Tianhe wasn't as good as the top 10 prodigies. All he lacked was time. The last battle began very quickly. 10 arenas were held at the same time, dazzling the crowd of martial artists. They were very interested in the battles in each arena. However, when they watched this battle, they would naturally overlook the other battles. This made the hearts of the martial artists itch, and the focus of their gazes changed back and forth between the various arenas. The first battle to end was arena number 1. Mo Tong ranked first among the top 10 proud sons of heaven. Even among the 7-star venerables, he was at the top level. Although Yi Tianhe was a monster, his cultivation was too low and he was no match for Mo Tong. Immediately after, the battle in the second arena also ended. The ranking of the top 10 geniuses had been decided a year ago. Now, it was hard to tell whether Yi Wen was stronger or weaker than Mo Tong. Naturally, Yu Qinggan was no match for him. With the help of the corpse jade, Yu Qinggan's cultivation had risen to the level of a reverend 5 stars. He only had a high talent in martial arts and did not have an extreme astrology. It was already extremely difficult for him to defeat a reverend 6 stars. He was no match for venerable 7 stars. Other than arena number 1 and 2, where the battles ended within 3 to 5 moves, the other arenas were all experiencing intense battles. In arena number 4, Mo Mingyue's astrology was a star like the moon. However, it was not a full moon, but a crescent moon. If it was a full moon, it would be the lunar astrology, one of the highest astrology. Even a half-moon lunar astrology would be an extreme astrology. Mo Mingyue's astrology was a crescent moon, which was equivalent to an upper astrology. However, it was also an extreme existence among upper astrology. It was similar to Yi Xing's flame astrology, and their star power strength was similar. As for the martial arts inheritance, Mo Mingyue cultivated the extreme grade of the spiritual level. She had already reached the 4th level, 1 level lower than Yi Xing. However, her cultivation was at the 6th level of the astral realm. Through the compensation of her cultivation, her astral realm was not inferior to Yi Xing's. As for martial arts, Mo Mingyue's extreme grade spiritual martial art, Great Lunar Art, had already reached the initial stage. The weapon she used was the extreme grade spiritual weapon, Cyan Moon Wheel. A crescent moon appeared above Mo Mingyue's head. Using the Great Een Moon Wheel art, she danced gracefully like a fairy under the moon. The supreme grade spirit weapon, the Cyan Moon Wheel, shone brightly as it revolved around her. In the blink of an eye, it attacked, dancing around the entire arena. In terms of astrology, astral realm, and martial arts, Mo Mingyue was not inferior to Yi Xing. However, in terms of spiritual weapons, the Cyan Moon Wheel was an extreme grade spiritual weapon, while the Burning Gloves were an upper grade spiritual weapon. Of course, the Cyan Moon Wheel increased one's strength more. Moreover, Mo Mingyue's Great Lunar Art was special. It was completely different from other sword arts, fist arts, and blade arts. It did not form a set of skills. The Cyan Moon Wheel came and went as if it was flying, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. It was extremely difficult to deal with. Therefore, with the strength that Yi Xing had displayed, although he could defeat all the 6 stars true masters, he was still defeated by Mo Mingyue. In his current state, Yi Xing could not turn the situation around even if he attacked with all his might. Finally, after exchanging 18 moves, his body could not dodge in time and his arm was grazed by the Cyan Moon Wheel. Instantly, blood splattered and a wound appeared on his arm. Yi Xing took the opportunity to retreat and jumped off the arena. He had lost this battle. He had attacked with all his might, but he was still injured by the Cyan Moon Wheel. It was reasonable for him to retreat with injuries. No one could tell that he had deliberately concealed his strength and lost. Mo Mingyue was like a fairy from the moon, and her temperament was also as cold as a fairy from the moon. When Yi Xing landed on the arena, she glanced at him indifferently and kept the Cyan Moon Wheel. Without saying anything, she retreated to the side. The half-step martial supremacy of the 4th arena announced that Mo Mingyue had won and entered the top 10. At the same time that Yi Xing was defeated, Qi Xiaolong of the 3rd arena was also knocked off by Ying Zhangkong, ending the battle. From the 1st to the 4th arena, the top 10 supreme talents had retained their positions. The higher the ranking of the top 10 supreme talents, the stronger they were. It was reasonable for those at the front to retain their positions. However, those at the back might not be able to retain their positions. Sigh. What a pity, what a pity. Yi Xing, you were placed in the 4th group. Mo Mingyue is really too strong. If you were placed in the 9th or 10th group, you might be able to defeat her and enter the top 10 supreme talents. Yang Gang said indignantly as soon as Yi Xing returned to the area where the true Xian domain martial artists were. Mu Xiaoyue looked at Yi Xing and sighed. In Mu Xiaoyue's opinion, Yi Xing's failure to enter the top 10 was the same as his failure to enter the top 100. They were both too young and did not have enough cultivation. Mu Xiaoyue's cultivation was at the 3rd stage of the astral star realm, but his combat strength was at the level of a 5-star martial sage. In terms of the ability to challenge those at a higher cultivation level, he was definitely comparable to Yi Tianhe. However, his reputation was miles away from Yi Tianhe's. Mu Xiaoyue did not even enter the top 100, so very few people paid attention to his ability to challenge those at a higher cultivation level. Only by entering the top 100 would he be able to attract the attention of the spectating martial artists. However, entering the top 10 was another level. In Mu Xiaoyue's opinion, if Yi Xing was a 6-star martial sage, he would definitely enter the top 10. He did not know that Yi Xing did not want to enter the top 10. If he wanted to enter the top 10, who could stop him? Monday, please recommend me. Chapter 493. In the 6th arena. Wei Qingxuan's opponent was Wu Yuanjing, who was ranked 6th among the top 10 prodigies. Wu Yuanjing was born in the Black Tiger Empire and was less than 24 years old. 2 years ago, Wu Yuanjing's cultivation had reached the 6th level of the astral realm. A year ago, he had defeated the venerable 7-star and was ranked as one of the top 10 prodigies. Now, Wu Yuanjing's cultivation had stabilized at the peak of the 6th level, and his martial arts skills were more profound than a year ago. Wu Yuanjing was obviously much stronger than when he had first been ranked as one of the top 10 prodigies. Wu Yuanjing was a direct descendant of the Black Tiger Empire's royal family. He cultivated the Black Tiger demonic aura, which was a combat technique of the Black Tiger Empire. Combat techniques were different from pure technique inheritances. Pure technique inheritances only cultivated, raised cultivation, and strengthened astral energy. Combat techniques, on the other hand, had an additional function, which was to use astral energy to fight. Combat techniques were like the combination of technique inheritances and martial arts skills. The Black Tiger Empire's combat technique, the Black Tiger demonic aura, was a low-grade black-level technique. Like the Falling Star incantation, it was divided into low-grade spiritual level, mid-grade spiritual level, and so on. Wu Yuanjing's Black Tiger demonic aura was a supreme-grade spiritual level technique, and he had reached the 4th level. The astral energy in his body was extremely powerful, and it was even stronger than other astral energy of the same level. It was comparable to Yi Xing's 5th-level astral energy of the supreme-grade spiritual level Falling Star incantation. However, Wu Yuanjing's cultivation was higher than Yi Xing's, so the strength of his astral energy was higher than Yi Xing's. In this aspect, Wu Yuanjing was ranked very high among the top 10 prodigies. Even though Wu Yuanjing's astrology was only a high-grade astrology, his powerful astral energy allowed him to be on par with the venerable 7-star. Wei Qingxuan's high-grade ice star incantation floated above her, and the temperature in the arena dropped drastically. Every time she struck, snow would fall from the sky. The martial technique she used was the high-grade fluttering snow palm, which she had reached perfection. The frost star form and divine fluttering snow palm complemented each other perfectly. When they were executed at the same time, their power was terrifying. Every time Wei Qingxian struck out with her palm, a cold wind blew and snowflakes danced in the air. Wherever her palm wind passed, the ground was covered with a layer of white frost, and even icicles were formed. However, as one of the top 10 heavens favorites, Wu Yuanjing's strength was not comparable to Xianxia's. Wei Qingxian could easily freeze Xianxia's attack, but she could not freeze Wu Yuanjing's Black Tiger aura. Wu Yuanjing punched out. The Black Tiger demonic wind left his body and turned into a huge black tiger. It let out a tiger roar and broke through the layers of ice, heading straight for Wei Qingxian. Wei Qingxian struck out with his palm. It was only when his palm pressed against the black tiger's head that the black tiger was completely frozen and shattered into pieces. However, Wu Yuanjing's attack came again. One of Wu Yuanjing's hands turned into a palm and the other into a claw, grabbing down from above. The black tiger aura condensed into 2 black tigers and attacked again. One rushed straight, The other leaped into the sky and pounced down like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. Wei Qingxian faced the attack of two black tiger aura at the same time and was suddenly a little flustered. Snowstorm Sky. Wei Qingxian let out a soft cry and executed one of the ultimate moves of the fluttering snow divine palm. She first put her palms together and then raised them to the sky, her palms striking towards the sky. Whoosh! The cold wind suddenly became 10 times fiercer and the snowflakes fluttered 10 times faster. The surrounding temperatures suddenly dropped. With Wei Qingxian as the center, the wind howled, as if there was a tornado, blowing the snowflakes into the air. The swirling cold wind grew larger and larger. The snowstorm was everywhere and the two black tiger aura condensed from the black tiger aura were smashed into pieces. Furthermore, the snowstorm did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, it continued to expand. It was about to envelop the entire stage, including Wu Yuanjing. Wu Yuanjing narrowed his eyes and shouted, "You're forcing me to use my unique skill, Black Tiger Aura." As he spoke, Wu Yuanjing took a step forward. His hands formed a seal and pushed forward. His entire body leaned forward with this push. Boom, 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 boom. In an instant, Wu Yuanjing's Black Tiger Aura left his body and transformed into 4 huge black tigers that charged forward. The black tigers roared and clawed at the ground, charging and slamming. Yes, they were not slamming straight but slamming randomly. The 4 black tigers slammed together and completely dispersed the snowstorm and cold wind in front of them. How was this Black Tiger Aura? This move should be called Mad Tiger Aura. These 4 black tigers slammed crazily as if they had gone mad. Their strength was terrifying and their might shook the sky. The wind and snow that filled the sky was swept back by the 4 black tigers. Wei Qingxian retreated again and finally jumped off the ring, losing this battle. Haha. Wu Yuanjing withdrew his move and the Black Tiger Aura returned to his body. He laughed loudly, his laughter full of pride. Chapter 494. The 9th group was Hu Jiaoyang from the Flaming Light Empire versus Feng Jian from the Laifeng Empire. Hu Jiaoyang was ranked 3rd among the 10 sovereigns. Mo Mingyue and Yi Wuxia were ranked 4th and 5th respectively. In the same realm, the number of male warriors was much higher than the number of female warriors. This could be seen from the ratio of male to female warriors. Hu Jiaoyang was ranked 9th among the 10 great prodigies. Her strength was at the bottom. What she relied on was her innate fire attribute physique. Her cultivation of fire attribute martial arts, as well as her comprehension of the power of fire, far surpassed ordinary people. However, as a rising swordsman, Feng Jian's strength was also terrifying. His sword contained the wind momentum of the Tidal realm and was extremely fast. Under Feng Jian's fast sword attack, Hu Jiaoyang was defeated after 10 moves. After 20 moves, she was forced to retreat. After 30 moves, she was forced out of the arena by Feng Jian. Now, the 3rd sovereign title had changed hands. At the same time, there was 1 less female warrior among the 10 sovereigns. Only Mo Mingyue and Yi Wuxia were left. The 10th group was Qi Yun and from the Xianxia Empire versus King Kong from the Jinhong Empire. Qi Yun and was ranked last among the 10 sovereigns. His strength was the weakest. The 7th, 8th, and 9th sovereigns were all eliminated by the rising stars. Apparently, he was no exception. Like Shi Jinyu, King Kong had strong defensive power. They both had special cultivation of their bodies. Their bodies were much stronger than ordinary people. Together with their special gang qi, they could be invulnerable. King Kong's martial arts was the supreme spiritual martial art treasure body. Unlike Shi Jinyu, who mainly relied on Shi Yan's gang qi, King Kong mainly relied on his physical strength. At the beginning of the battle, Qi Yun and launched a fierce attack on King Kong. However, any attack that got close to King Kong was smashed by his iron fists. Even if some of the attacks hit King Kong's body, they could not shake him at all. As for King Kong, he launched a counterattack. Every punch contained the power of 10,000. Even though Qi Yun unblocked King Kong's moves, his body could not withstand the impact of the power and was forced to retreat. In the end, Qi Yun and was defeated after 30 moves. King Kong entered the top 10 and won the title of sovereign. Before the genius selection began, the Xianxia Empire was the most glorious of the 9 great empires. This was because the Xianxia Empire not only had Qi Yun, who was one of the top 10 geniuses, but also Qi Xiaolong, who was also a rising star. The middle-rank empire had 2 top young geniuses, and the Xianxia Empire was the only one. Unfortunately, after the second round of the competition, not only did the rising stars of the Xianxia Empire fail to enter the top 10, even Qi Yun, was squeezed out of the top 10 prodigies. In comparison, they were not as confident as those middle-rank empires that had geniuses of the younger generation ranked among the top 10 prodigies. When the curtains had been drawn to the battles of the 10 groups, the top 10 of this year's Heavenly Genius meeting had been decided. From Group 1 to 10, they were Mo Tong, Yi Wen, Ying Changkong, Mo Mingyue, Yi Wuxia, Wu Yuanjing, Shi Jianyu, Ying Xiangyang, Feng Jianlu, and King Kong. Of the original 10 Heaven's Favorites, the top 6 still retained their Heaven's Favorites titles, while the bottom 4 had their Heaven's Favorites titles changed. There were 4 new Heaven's Favorites. From the top 10, it could be seen that the younger generation of the 3 high-rank empires had an absolute advantage. Of the previous 10 Heaven's Favorites, the 3 high-rank empires already had 5. Of the new 10 Heaven's Favorites, the 3 high-rank empires had 6, with the addition of Ying Xiangyang. In this way, the Blood Edge, Black Crow, and Sky Eagle empires each had 2 spots in the new 10 Heaven's Favorites. In terms of numbers, it could be considered a tie. If one really wanted to determine who was first and who was last, then it could only be done by ranking. The third round of the competition was the battle of the top 10 Heaven's Favorites. According to the ranking, the top 10 Heaven's Favorites would receive generous rewards from the 3 high-rank empires. The higher the ranking, the better the rewards. However, before the third round of the competition, there was still a challenge round. The rising stars and prodigies that were eliminated in the second round all had a chance to challenge the top 10. The new Heaven's Favorites might not be as strong as the eliminated prodigies. Therefore, after the challenge round, there might be changes in the new 10 Heaven's Favorites. Of the 10 eliminated prodigies, only 7 had challenged the top 10. Yi Xing, Wei Qingxian, and Yu Qinggan had all given up. Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian evidently did not want to be in the limelight and enter the top 10. As for Yu Qinggan, he knew his own limitations. He could still deal with a 6 stars enlightened master, but compared to a prodigy, he was still far from it. Yi Tianhe, Qi Xiaolong, Shang Buchuan, and the others were all defeated in the challenge round without exception. Of the new Heaven's Favorites, the first 6 were the strongest among the original 10 Heaven's Favorites. Their positions were unshakable. The last 4 were able to eliminate the original Heaven's Favorites and were also very strong. Since the eliminated prodigies had been knocked off their Heaven's Favorites, it was naturally very difficult for them to regain their Heaven's Favorites. As for the eliminated prodigies, since they had been eliminated, it was naturally very difficult for them to make a comeback. After all, the new 10 Heaven's Favorites were all very strong. They were all stronger than ordinary 7 stars venerated masters. In other words, even the weakest of the 10 Heaven's Favorites was above average among 7 stars venerated masters. How could such strength be easily shaken? As for Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian, who truly had the strength to challenge the top 10 Heaven's Favorites, they did not aspire to be in the top 10. Since they had deliberately lost to avoid entering the top 10, it was even more impossible for them to make a comeback now. Therefore, after the challenge round, there were no changes to the new 10 Heaven's Favorites. There was no one more or one less. Before the challenge round, the 4 new Heaven's Favorites were still a little worried that they would be knocked off their Heaven's Favorites. But after the challenge round, only arrogance remained on the faces of the 4 new Heaven's Favorites. When they looked at the eliminated prodigies, there was a look of superiority in their eyes. This was not because they were born arrogant, but because their actual strength had proven that they were indeed at the top of the East Divine Continent's younger generation. They were far ahead. The third round of the competition was held one match after another. Yi Xing and Wei Qingxian watched the third round of the competition as spectators. When the third round of the competition ended, there were still some small changes to the rankings of the 10 Heavens favorites. First to fourth were still Mo Tong, Yi Win, Ying Changkong, and Mo Mingyue. Fifth was Ying Xiangyang. This person was indeed very strong. As a rising prodigy, he had first defeated Beigong Yidao and squeezed into the top 10. Then he had defeated Shi Jianyu, Wu Yuanjing, and Yi Wuxia to squeeze into the top 5. Sixth was still Wu Yuanjing. He had defeated Yi Wuxia, but because he had lost to Ying Xiangyang, he had not advanced a single rank. 7th to 10th were Yi Wuxia, King Kong, Feng Jianlu, and Shi Jianyu. Chapter 495. The new top 10 prodigies had all received generous rewards from the 3 upper-rank empires. Many warriors were envious of them. When the top 10 prodigies received their rewards and stepped down from the arena, a supremacy came to the area where the true Xian region warriors were. Esteemed Yang Gu, esteemed Qin Feng, esteemed Dried Bones, and the other supremacies of the true Xian region all stood up and bowed slightly to the supremacy. Greetings, Supremacy Qinyu. Then, the supremacies introduced the supremacy to the disciples of their respective sections. This is the Emperor of the Qinyu Empire, Supremacy Qinyu. Quickly pay your respects. It was actually the Emperor of the Qinyu Empire. The juniors of the true Xian region were all excited. They cupped their fists and bowed, saying in unison, "Greetings, Supremacy Qinyu." Yi Xing was about to bow and greet him like the rest of the true mystic region. However, a voice entered his ears and stopped him. "Don't move." Yi Xing was surprised. When the voice sounded, Supremacy Qinyu's gaze fell on him. It was obvious that this person had sent him a message. No need to be so polite. Supremacy Qinyu nodded slightly. His gaze swept across the supremacies casually. He came to Yi Xing and patted Yi Xing's shoulder. "You did well. Although you did not become one of the top 10 prodigies, you have greatly exceeded my expectations. You have not wasted my efforts in grooming you." Yi Xing was confused. This was the first time he had met Supremacy Qinyu. Why would Supremacy Qinyu say that he had groomed him in front of everyone? Of course, although the situation was strange, Yi Xing only hesitated in his heart. His expression was normal. He knew that since Supremacy Qinyu had made such a move, there must be an explanation. Not only was Yi Xing confused, but the other warriors of the true Xian region were also extremely surprised. Yi Xing was actually being groomed by Supremacy Qinyu behind him? This was really shocking to the warriors of the true Xian region. However, after a short moment of shock, the hearts of the martial artists of the true Xian domain became more relaxed. A thought flashed through their minds. No wonder Yi Xing is so abnormal. It turns out that he has a venerable behind him. Especially esteemed Yang Gu and Yang Gang. They had already known that Yi Xing had a supremacy behind him. Now that they heard Supremacy Qinyu's words, there was no doubt about it. As Supremacy Qinyu, and Supremacy Qinyu, and Yi Xing. If anyone asks who is the supremacy behind you, Black Biao King, you must not reveal it. Say that I am grooming you. When you were 16, I was traveling the world. And Supremacy Black King, you must not reveal him. Black King. When Supremacy Qinyu mentioned Black Biao King, Yi Xing naturally believed him. This was because only he and Black Biao knew about the relationship between Yi Xing and Black Biao. Even Supremacy Wu Yu only guessed that there was a supremacy behind him. Yi Xing did not reveal the relationship between him and Black Biao, but Supremacy Qinyu knew. It was obvious that Black Biao had instructed him to do so. Yi Xing looked at Supremacy Qinyu and pretended to be familiar with him. He said, "Yi Xing is where I am today because of Senior. Thank you for grooming me." Supremacy Qinyu's heart skipped a beat. The Black Biao King called Yi Xing Brother Yi Xing. Yi Xing actually called him Senior. He was really flattered. However, he was only surprised in his heart. His expression was normal. He said, "Continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you. Perhaps in a few years, you will become the first supremacy in the true Xian domain. With your current achievements, it will be difficult for me to teach you in the future. However, I will pay attention to you and hope that you will become a supremacy soon. After saying that, Supremacy Qin Yu secretly sent a message to Yixing, we don't meet often. Once every 6 months, I will teach you for 3 days each time. Every year, it will be 3 days before the first month and 3 days before the 6th month. The rest of the time, you will have to rely on yourself. What Supremacy Qin Yu meant was that he and Yixing would match. If anyone asked, both sides would be able to match up. Supremacy Qin Yu left after saying a few words. The martialists of the true Xian domain looked at Yixing in a different light. Although Yixing's performance had been heaven-defying and had shocked them, it was still uncertain whether Yixing would become a supremacy. After all, it was unknown whether Yixing had inherited a dark-level cultivation technique. Without a dark-level cultivation technique, how could he become a supremacy? However, at that moment, Exalted Qin Yu had appeared. Furthermore, Exalted Qin Yu had said that he looked forward to Yixing becoming an exalted. It was obvious that Exalted Qin Yu had already inherited Yixing's Xian-level martial technique. In that case, it was only a matter of time before Yixing became a supremacy. The martialists of the true Xian domain naturally viewed a future supremacy differently from how they had viewed Yixing. Not only was there shock and horror in his eyes, but there was also a hint of reverence. While Supremacy Qin Yu was visiting Yixing, Meng Yuanxing was paying attention to Yi Tianhe and listening to Supremacy Mo Jian's report. Supremacy Mo Jian said, Yi Tianhe is a member of the royal family of the Tianshui Empire. However, he was born in a side clan and his parents were not at the astral star realm. His performance was mediocre. He started cultivating at the age of 10 and broke through the star vortex realm to become a star marquis at the age of 17. After he turned 17, Yi Tianhe's cultivation started to soar rapidly. In just 3 years, his cultivation rose from the first level of the star vortex realm to the 4th level of the astral star realm. Meng Tianxing raised his eyebrows and said, he turned 17 3 years ago? There was a turning point in his life? 3 years ago was when Si Kongyan had predicted that the demon star would descend. Supremacy Mo Jian nodded. Meng Tianxing blinked. After 2 breaths, he continued to ask, can you confirm if he is the same person as he was before he turned 17? Supremacy Mo Jian said, I should be able to confirm that his family did not notice anything unusual about him. Meng Tianxing closed his eyes and pondered. After taking a deep breath, he said, show me the list of the top 100. Soon, the list of the top 100 was in Meng Tianxing's hands. He scanned the list and paid special attention to a few martialists with the surname Yi. Yi Wuyan, Yi Wuxia, Yi Tianhe, Yi Xing, Yi Binglong, Yi Zhenyan, Yi Fan, and Yi Kunlong. Among them, Yi Wuyan, Yi Wuxia, Yi Binglong, Yi Zhenyan, and Yi Kunlong were all from the Black Raven Empire. Yi Fan was from the Heavenly Wolf Empire, a middle-rank empire. Yi Tianhe was from the Heavenly Water Empire, a low-rank empire. Yi Xing was from the true Xian domain. Could the demon star of troubled times be among these 8? Meng Yuanxing's eyes scanned the names of the 8 martialists as he pondered. State Preceptor Si Kong said that the demon star descended to the east and was born with the surname Yi. However, ever since it was confirmed that the demon star of troubled times was an extraterrestrial, everything has become confusing and difficult to confirm. Even if the demon star of troubled times really descended to the east, 3 years have already passed and he might not still be in the East Divine Continent. Furthermore, even if the demon star was born with the surname Yi, it might not be impossible for him to change his surname. Begging for a monthly vote. Chapter 496. All 8 of them are suspicious. Among them, Yi Xing and Yi Tianhe are the most suspicious. If the fiend star is one of them, I will kill all of them and end this once and for all. However, if he is not one of them, the deaths of the 8 participants will definitely attract the attention of the fiend star. If he is vigilant, it will be difficult to find him. Meng Yuanxing pondered for a long time but could not determine who the fiend star was. He still could not act rashly to avoid alerting the enemy. However, since the 8 young geniuses were suspicious, he could not do nothing. Meng Yuanxing's voice rang in the ears of the supremacies of the Blood Edge Empire and Sky Eagle Empire. Instruct your juniors to attack all martial artists with the surname Yi in the Divine Continent's secret realm. Especially the top 8 in the top 100. They are the main targets. Use all means to see if they are hiding any secrets. In the Black Crow Empire, the Yi clan was the royal family of the empire. Yi Wuyan, Yi Wuxia, Yi Binglong, Yi Junyan, Yi Kunlong, and the other top 100 martial artists with the surname Yi were all juniors of the Black Evil Empire. Of course, this matter could not be told to the people of the Black Crow Empire. Meng Yuanxing's voice was transmitted secretly. The supremacies of the Blood Edge Empire and Sky Eagle Empire naturally would not say anything. They replied secretly, "Yes, Yuan Sage Monarch." Very quickly, the juniors of the two empires received orders from their respective supremacies to attack the martial artists with the surname Yi in the Divine Continent's secret realm and test their bottom line. The Divine Continent's secret realm was about to open. However, the martial artists with the surname Yi did not know that what awaited them was a calamity. To open the Divine Continent's secret realm, the 3 upper-rank empires of the East Divine Continent had to join forces. Not long after the genius selection competition ended, Mo Jian supremacy of the Blood Edge Empire, Yi Hong supremacy of the Black Crow Empire, and Eternal Sky supremacy of the Sky Eagle Empire flew into the sky at the same time and took out their respective treasures to open the entrance to the Divine Continent's secret realm. Mo Jian supremacy stood in the sky and said loudly, "The Divine Continent's secret realm is a treasure land in the East Divine Continent. It has been passed down since ancient times and there are large amounts of spirit-grade treasures, martial arts, and medicinal herbs inside. Furthermore, if one's luck was good, one could even obtain a profound-grade treasure." The most mysterious place was none other than the Stargazing Enlightenment Platform. The 7 Stargazing Enlightenment Platforms appeared in the center of the secret realm 10 days after it opened. On the Enlightenment Platforms, one could observe the stars and comprehend martial arts. It had a magical effect and was the best place to improve one's martial arts attainment. Within the mystic realm, there are many other magical places. I won't list them one by one. Juniors, you can explore them slowly after you enter. Each time the Divine Continent Mystery Realm opens, it can only last for a month. After a month, all of you will be transported out. The Heavenly Eagle Empire's Eternal Sky Supremacy swept his gaze across the younger martial artists and said, "Lads, what are you waiting for? You are lucky enough to enter the Divine Continent Mystery Domain. This is your destiny. Go on in." The disciples of the 3 upper-rank empires were the first to soar into the sky. Behind each of them was either an upper-grade or a middle-grade flying spiritual treasure. They flew into the sky and entered the mystic realm through the entrance of the mystic realm at the mountainside of the Divine Continent Mountain. Closely following them were the younger geniuses of the 9 middle-rank empires. After that, all the younger geniuses followed suit. Whether it was the younger geniuses of the middle-rank empires or the lower regions, this was the first time they were lucky enough to enter the Divine Continent Mystery Domain. Yi Xing and the younger martial artists of the True Xian region flew towards the entrance of the mystic realm. They did not rush too far ahead and did not fall behind. When Yi Xing passed through the entrance of the mystic realm that was like a space vortex, the space changed and he appeared in a spacious plain. There were many younger martial artists in the vicinity. Clearly, everyone had entered from the same area. Whoosh! After Yi Xing entered the Divine Continent Mystery Domain, he saw a flash of light that was as fast as lightning. Someone was using a supreme-grade flying spiritual treasure to fly at high speed. Yi Xing looked into the distance and saw that person clearly. It was Yi Tianhe, who had been in the limelight at the Genius Trials. This person was cautious. He knew that he had been in the limelight and was afraid that someone would harm him in the mystic realm. Once he entered the mystic realm, he stayed away from the crowd. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, another flash of light flew past. Xianxia from the Sky Eagle Empire also used a supreme-grade flying spiritual treasure and chased after Yi Tianhe. Yi Xing blinked. It seemed like Yi Tianhe's caution was not without reason. There were indeed people who wanted to harm him. Although he was a demon, his cultivation was too low. He was only at the 4th tier of the Astral Dipper realm and could not compete with a genius who had the battle prowess of a 7-star venerable. Yi Xing's heart skipped a beat. Yi Tianhe had been in the limelight. As a younger martial artist of the lower region, he had also made it to the final round of the top 10. He had also been in the limelight. Perhaps there were people who wanted to harm him. There are too many people here. I'd better not reunite with Qingxian first. I'll stay away from the crowd first. Yi Xing thought to himself. Although he was not Yi Tianhe and did not fear any of the younger geniuses, he still wanted to avoid trouble as much as possible. However, someone did not give Yi Xing the chance to leave. Yi Xing. A loud shout rang out as a person blocked Yi Xing's path. At this moment, all of the younger geniuses were in the vicinity. This person's shout attracted everyone's attention. It's Beilon Empire's Beigong Yidao. Why is he looking for trouble with Yi Xing? Could it be that the two of them have some grudges? It shouldn't be. The Beilon Empire is in the northern part of the East Divine Continent, while the true Xin region is in the eastern part of the East Divine Continent. The two places are at least 10 million miles apart. How could there be any grudges between them? Beigong Yidao was once one of the top 10 geniuses. Although he was forced out, he still has the battle prowess of a 7-star venerable. Although Yi Xing's battle prowess is strong, he is no match for him. The martial artists started to discuss. The younger geniuses of the Blood Edge Empire and the Sky Eagle Empire who wanted to attack Yi Xing saw that Beigong Yidao had attacked Yi Xing first. They were not in a hurry to attack. Yi Xing's gaze fell on Beigong Yidao, who was standing beside Beigong Yidao. He immediately understood why Beigong Yidao was looking for trouble with him. It was obviously because of Beigong Yidao. Beigong Yidao's aura surged like a vast ocean. It was unstoppable as it pressed down on Yi Xing. He shouted loudly, "It's all because of you that my brother lost his place in the top 100. You are just a martial artist from the lower region. How dare you be in the top 100? Look at the top 100. Apart from you, is there any other martial artist from the lower region?" After saying this, Beigong Yidao pointed his saber at Yi Xing and said word by word, "You are not qualified to be in the top 100. Although Yi Xing did not want to cause trouble, he was not afraid of it. He looked at Beigong Yidao indifferently and said, "Whether I am qualified or not is not up to you to decide." You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.